Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome back to the REMINGTOM pod. Are we good? Are we live? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're in. Testing? Yes, sir. We are live and ready to go. Post Super Bowl, finally a chance to settle down and settle in and kick back and watch some hoops. We only got 4 NBA games on tonight. Knicks Pacers about to start up, but we've got a heavy college basketball evening. And shout out to Michigan getting it kicked off in a top 25 matchup. Michigan continuing to. I mean, I guess technically, if you look at the course of the season, we're up and down over the rankings. But as of right now, we're up a little bit, up from 24 to 20, trying to take down a top 10 team at home. If you look at the records, I mean, it looks like it's a pretty even matchup. Obviously, this is the time of the year where now we've got to catch up on all the college basketball that we've missed. March Madness is around the corner. We don't want to be totally ignorant going into the bracket. So it's like, you know, we got to throw a couple of games on, plus draft time as well, too. Like, you don't want to just watch all of the guys on YouTube. There is some stuff to that. Like, I feel like maybe the last 2 years with watching the draft, it's definitely been a lot more YouTube-centric, whereas, and I mean, that's just, you know, the way it is as well, too. When you're younger, you just have less to do. Like, you're going to be around watching more college basketball games. But I don't feel like at the end of the day, it's that big of a difference. Like, at the end of the day, it's hours spent. So if you can find a way to watch enough, like the same accumulative amount of minutes, because again, you'd go, well, you know, watching a 60-minute game versus watching a 10-minute highlight video. But the way they cut up the highlight videos now, it's usually all pretty, it's a pretty extensive set of, like, a pretty extensive amount of plays that you can get in a 10-minute supercut of stuff chopped together. And you know, it's always one of those weird things as well, too, where you look at like the actual stats for sports and it's like how much of the time is actually being spent playing the sport. Basketball is obviously the one where you're getting the most of the, I mean, it's not obviously 100% of the seconds the sport is being played, but basketball's got to be pretty close. Football, it's one of those I forget what the exact number is, but I've seen it, heard people say it before, and it's like, you know, 12 minutes of the actual game, like football plays are being played. The rest of it is just, you know, spent in time in between and just wasting the clock. But, I mean, you know, if you can find a way to watch just the same kind of equivalent amount of time, it's all the same at the end of the day. But it's good to watch players play in that full game environment. And it, you know, it's just harder to find the full games on YouTube afterwards as well. So March Madness, not so much. But then again, you need the guy to get into March Madness. You want him to, of course, be playing at least some level of a opponent as well, too, if he's from a higher school. Now, if it's an upset, then there's obviously things you could take away. But still, I mean, you know, level of competition and whatever, chat. But, you know, this is the time of year. Football, I guess it's officially just our first post-NFL episode in general. What are we going to do, chat? I mean, the weekends, what is there to do on the weekends now? We're going to have to figure out something. I think IT's cooking up a couple of fun stuff that we're working on right now. But, you know, in that post-NFL stretch, the post-NFL time of year, got to start watching the college basketball. It's, you know, you got to have it like at least 3 or 4 sports in the rotation at one time. So now that the NFL's out, and, you know, college and NFL, they count as different sports in terms of a viewing experience. You know, college football is its own thing. NFL is its own thing. It's not just like watching football. Like if somebody's, you know, if you're in an argument with somebody and they're like, well, you watched football all day yesterday. Like you can't watch football Sunday too. It's like, well, yeah, but it's not just football. It's its own separate thing. It's like 2 separate TV shows. Like if we were watching, you know, your TV shows, I wouldn't be like, we were watching TV all day, you'd be like, well, it was a different show. It's like, you know, it's a whole different sport. It's college football. It's Big Ten. It's SEC. College basketball, NBA, totally different things. So now that the NFL is out, there's room for college basketball. Shout out the boys in blue. Shout out the maize in blue. The defending college football national champions. Oh, wait a second. No, that's from 2 years ago. Who won the national championship this past year, chat? Who was that again in college football? The first ever 12-team playoff. Did they even play the national championship this year? I think that game got canceled and postponed and it never happened. Maybe it's going to get rescheduled in the future. I don't. Did they hand out the trophy? Hopefully they didn't, because Ohio State was looking pretty good. So, IT, look up the score of that game and see what happened. Hopefully Ohio State didn't win. That'd be a really big bummer. But a 5-point game, 5 minutes left, chat. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a lot of who's this guy as we watch a lot of college basketball right now. We know, like we said, 2 guys from the tournament last year that we're still locked in on, still big fans of. Janai Broom out of Auburn. Shout out the all Sam college basketball team of guys that we just know. I'm sure Sam's got a couple of Kansas guys, a couple of guys from, again, the tournament last year, a couple of names. He's always got a couple of, there's a couple of guys that he's watching and, the YouTube clips and all that stuff. And he's like, he doesn't have a team, but Tatum, he's always looking out for his guy Tatum. He's always looking out for, just in general, I'm sure he's kind of interested secretly in Wemby and the Spurs now. I mean, come on, Chad. If the Spurs aren't team of the year in 2025-26 for Sam, what are we doing? Who did he end up picking this year? Was it the Hornets? That might be a yikes. And speaking of the Hornets, do we have to talk about some NBA trade news off the top, Chat? The rare the rare rescinded trade. Mark Williams failed his Lakers physical, according to his Lakers physical. So obviously according to the Lakers, but failed his physical with the team, and they have, I guess, rejected the trade. Whatever the requirements for the trade have not been met, so it will not be processed. And the funniest part about the deal is, when I saw the headline, I saw in the report that was saying that Charlotte is trying to contest the deal. So either Charlotte really wants Dalton Connect or they really want Mark Williams out of there. I just don't know which one it is, chat. They've got a lot of guards. And again, like, the trade getting rejected could weirdly be like a good thing for him if it's like a motivating thing for Mark Williams. Because again, I say, maybe they want to get rid of Mark Williams. One of the pieces that I guess I just wasn't, locked in on the Charlotte blogs enough. I don't know if Sam was either, if he picked him as team of the year, if he would have known the Mark Williams stories. But apparently there's some, like, real, I guess, I don't know if it's, you would classify it as like locker room stuff. I don't know if it got into there, but, just kind of some work ethic type stuff and just some effort level stuff. There was a big clip of, speak of Lakers trading for all the guys with poor effort. They traded for, obviously, you're going to trade for Doncic if you can trade for Doncic, but they trade for the guy that Windhorst rips into during the finals and has this massive rant about effort and about defense and about how he's costing the team, and even more so effort with Doncic as well too, just his attitude kind of by the end of the finals, picking up kind of sloppy fouls and costing his team. Windhorst had enough, chat. He was fed up, so he had to apparently go speak his mind to SVP about it. But you got Windhorst ripping into Doncic, and then there was this Charlotte TV guy that was just ripping into Mark Williams after one of the performances as well too. And I think it was a 20-point game, and he said that as well too in the game. So it was like, obviously it was just a poor team performance all the way around, but apparently Mark Williams just had to take the brunt of it and just had a couple of massive effort, lackluster plays, and it really stood out to the Charlotte Hornets guy. But Rob Pelinka doesn't care, chat. He will take a gamble. I mean, 2 great guys to take a swing at if you're a GM for sure. But I just wasn't quite aware of that in the Mark Williams piece of it all as well too. And I mean, the health factor alone is a reason to at least, question what the long-term impact of the deal is ultimately going to be. And especially, giving up a guy like Connect as well. But with the way Reeves has played, and I don't know if, Connect is like, getting rid of Connect is like extra opened it up for Reeves now as well too. I don't think Connect was really infringing on those minutes, but I think I remember even saying when the trade had happened as well too, it's like Connect, and one of the many things we just immediately have to take back from saying. And I like Austin Reeves, so it's never been like a anti-Reeves thing if it's ever, comparing him to another player, but I was just like, at Reeves at his age compared to Connect at his age, is Connect doing maybe some more stuff offensively? Like, it's just an interesting trade if you're trying to get a big man. And if you're trying to get a big man, what kind of market would you be in if Reeves was on the table versus Dalton Connect? Obviously, I think you could do a little bit better than Mark Williams than if Reeves is on the table. But I know they were talking about trading for Jalen Duren from the Pistons. So maybe if all of a sudden you're willing to trade Reeves, maybe Duren is on the table. I don't think that that's quite a one-for-one swap, especially now, chat. Obviously, trade deadline's passed. Would have to be in the offseason. But even post pre-trade deadline, Reeves for Duren, that's a close one because, again, Duren, the center positional value, I don't think you're putting in, like, you're not throwing in, like, a Duren and a first-round pick, you know, for Austin Reeves, but maybe Duren and another one of the veterans that they had on the team. I'd have to think. The Tim Hardaway Jr. contract might have been a little bit too much. Maybe you'd have to throw, like, Vincent back the other way, but then that seems like kind of a neutral swap for those two veterans. But it's just that maybe a couple of seconds or something. Not that Reeves wouldn't be worth a first in certain trades, but again, Duren is a lottery pick in his own right, so you've got to kind of value him correctly. And I think the Pistons were the one that turned him down as well too. So you get kind of, you know, you think Reeves and Cunningham, maybe Reeves was on the table for that. Maybe Connect was on the table for that, and they just go, hey, we have Cunningham and Ivy, and we're good to go. And plus they kind of go, they, you know, yes, they have the guards there, but even like Ivy is more, you know, I mean, he's just a really built guard. Like he could even play some wing minutes. Cade obviously can be a lead creator, but he can be 1-3. Like in college, he was almost not Ben Simmons, but you know, more so a point guard style. But because Ben Simmons was like playing forward in college and then would have these playmaking moments versus, you know, he wasn't like bringing the ball up open court all the time the way he was doing in like peak days in Philly. But Cade, you know, could be like a big forward almost as well too in certain moments. But they just, you know, maybe those type of players wouldn't fit the profile of the team that they're trying to build over in Detroit. Detroit chat. But either way, it's like at this point with the way Reeves has ascended, I don't even know if you'd trade him for any kind of center prospect in the league. Is he Davis? Could you trade Reed for Davis at this point, chat, and trade back to the Mavs? I don't even know what Reeves' trade value is at, but they had the game Saturday when it was supposed to be Doncic's big debut game. They'd moved the game to ESPN, and then Doncic is out. All of a sudden, LeBron goes out as well too. So now you're like, well, this game is not even worth watching. And then Reeves just goes out, marquee player, puts up 45 points, and is kind of like becoming a second guy in a way where, you know, you go back and look at the Davis trade. And again, Davis is out for a month now. So, or I guess I don't remember exactly what the timeline is on the injury, if it's a reevaluation or if it's a definite return or if it's a month or whatever. But, you know, maybe that just ultimately happens in LA either way. So it's like, well, now LA actually has the healthy player, surprisingly. So they just benefit in that factor. But that LeBron Davis combo, we saw Davis's impact and we saw Luka's impact as well too. And right away, first quarter, dominant in that Monday night game against the Jazz last night. But you know, again, it's the Jazz. You're expecting them to, you know, have a pretty big performance. But it's not just Reeves as well too. It's Reeves and it's LeBron. It's the Lakers team around him. And Luka's stat line ultimately wasn't, you know, like a super stacked stat line or anything like that. But he was, you know, you saw the pieces there, and he has been out as well, too, since Christmas. So just in general. And, I mean, if he is sitting at 277, he's going to need to run a couple laps up and down the court as well, too, to sweat some of this weight off. So it'll it might take a couple of games, chat, for Doncic to kind of work his way back, find his groove. Because make no mistake, you show him in the warm-ups, and maybe, like, I mean, a guy looking a little puffy in the pregame warm-ups is not the first thing that we've ever seen. But the guys that do tend to look puffy in the pregame warm-ups, like, I think we've just established that the pregame warm-ups aren't flattering, you know? They're not like a fat suit necessarily, unless, you know, maybe Harden was kind of borderline some of that stuff. Who knows what measures he was actually taking it, leaving some of those organizations. But, you know, it does definitely add a little bit of puff to the outline. It does make you a little bit thicker around the middle, that's for sure. Pause. Doncic, you can tell he's looking a little thick right now. That's for sure. He's definitely sitting a little heavy. But, again, he's playing with LeBron. The Lakers just it's a move where you're borderline like I mean you're a team that is right now pre the Doncic trade, looking at your team and going, are we a title contender? Like you're kind of on the fence about it. Now it doesn't really matter because of the timeline that you've been able to reset yourself with for this season, at least anyways. That's the point of the trade. The point of the trade is, well, we've reset the timeline. And I think the Mark Williams trade is like, well, let's speed that timeline back up a little bit and try to build a contending team. Williams as well too, as young, like we said earlier, is younger than Connect. So we said on the trade deadline show, yeah. So their ages, he even resets the timeline even more as well too, I guess, moving on from Connect. But he's also more in line of what they need at this moment. A center right away is ultimately, I mean, you could even say Connect as well right now is close to the player that Mark Williams is. Mark Williams is a really, really good player, and his center value as well is a lot different than what Connect's able to provide as like a off the bench scorer, But regardless, Connect's skill and Connect's value, and especially when Connect's like cooking as a player, because Connect will have a heat check game. Like that's the thing as well. Some guys are productive players off the bench, but maybe they don't even, or not even just productive players, even good offensive players, good shot makers, but they never even have the heat check game. I mean, we were looking a handful of weeks ago or whatever, the Sean Livingston stats on one of the live streams, and he would be a guy where it would seem like he would have the heat check game, but he was more have heat check moments, and then he would like a heat check game for Sean Livingston would be like 15 points, and it would be probably at this stage in Connect's career for him as well too. But he is also capable of like a 25, a 30. Not that Sean Livingston wasn't either as well, but you get what we're saying. It just seems like the more random night. I mean, just Connect's just a little bit more hit or miss with some of the stuff, and it feels like he could definitely have some big upswings still, even if you're trying to get impact from him for this season. But with the way LeBron and Reeves are playing, and if it's if it's Doncic or if it's Davis, ultimately it doesn't matter. Like we were saying on that trade deadline, I mean, it does matter, but in, what we're going to say, like, just in terms of trying to contend for whatever, like, they still, even if stylistically it changes your team and you go, okay, the timeline's reset, whatever, like, you still have one of those dudes on your roster. And maybe even in the player rankings, have even a better dude. So, that's why I think Davis is. And I even with that performance, those dominant minutes early in that first game back, I think has definitely reminded a lot of people. And I think, there definitely hasn't been the chatter the injury's not helping, obviously, but there hasn't been the chatter of like, oh, this is a disaster trade. This is just the worst trade ever. This is blah, 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 blah. Like, and again, you get it with the long-term stuff. Like, it's tough, but you see right away what exactly they're trying to accomplish and what the Davis impact was. And I was looking at some of the stats as well too recently, from some of the recent game played, like last 15 games played, just checking some of the lineups, and the Mavs 5-man lineup and some of their bench guys, not with Doncic and not even with Davis, because Davis has obviously only played, 3/4 of that one game, and Doncic has been out since Christmas. So their last 10 games, like the Mavs have been playing well just on the basis of their role guys, and Kyrie and Clay have been playing well in the Gafford minutes. I think the lineup that was like top 5 in the league over the last 10 games it had Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Gafford, and do I want to say who was the 5th guy in that lineup, Chad? We could go do the filter out real quick, but we could also just try to remember as well too what it was. But I'm pretty sure that those were the 4 guys in it for sure. I mean, those definitely would be. Was it Lively as well? Maybe it was Lively, but I just don't know if that lineup would have logged the minutes to have it the way I had it filtered out. But regardless, it's like, again, both those teams, same spot where they still have that, as of right now, top 12 dude in the league. So you could still look at your team and go, we're still viewing ourselves in the same way, at least for this season, that we thought we were. And if you have Reeves and you have LeBron playing at this level, then it becomes much more interesting. I mean, LeBron is playing at least offensively, he's playing at almost a number 1 player level. That's what, and I was saying with Reeves is almost playing at that I mean, he is playing at like a pure number 2, second best player on like a title team offensively type level right now. And LeBron is carrying and he's playmaking, and it looks like he's, found a burst. Michigan, we're hanging in there right now. First half, 50 seconds, down 4. Our guy Wolf hitting a big 3. He's been cooking all year, especially from distance, chat. And I know you all seen the highlights on House of Highlights of him hitting that big spinning step back 3. Pretty insane. It's a crazy highlight when Sam has to send it to me and like, hey, look what you guys are doing out there. Impressive stuff. It's like, yeah, thanks for tuning in, buddy. Got to check out Wolf. Got to check out the old Michigan Wolverines basketball team every now and then, But what were we saying about... we were rambling about Luka and Reeves and LeBron, chat. But the thing that I'm going to be curious about with LeBron, because it's not even just LeBron as well, too, as like an older... I mean, LeBron and Steph and Durant, all these guys are still playing really well this season. But LeBron has definitely stepped up as of late. And Curry, the last like 4 and 5 games, has been over 30 points, over 6 threes. He's really stepped into an extra level, extra gear, really found a different rhythm as well, too, as of late. And I don't know if that's going to be because the All-Star game is approaching and they're able to kind of have this ramp up, knowing that there's going to be a break in the season right here, or if this is actually them getting ready for the playoffs. Is this actually the level that these guys are going to be playing at down the stretch of the season? Is this actually the version of these guys that we're going to get? Because, I mean, LeBron has been absolutely crazy, chat. I mean, since turning 40. Do we have to look at the LeBron numbers since turning 40? I mean, I think we, as a, sports show, I think we have to do our due diligence of glazing LeBron at some point, pulling up LeBron stats and reminding ourselves of LeBron's career, chat. I mean, we have to. Every show, every person. And he turned 40, obviously his birthday is, not obviously, I guess, but his birthday is the 31st. So it's almost like since the new year as well, since the calendar turned. He is at 40 years old, chat, 20 games played. He's 26 points a game, 9 assists, 7.5 rebounds, 54% from the field, 44% from 3, 75, basically 70 or 76% from the free throw line. 26, 54, 44 splits, chat. I mean, what are we talking about? The man is 40 years old. I mean, there are actors that like have had like Disney Channel careers and are washed up now and like can't get a movie. And LeBron is still dropping 26 points a game in the NBA at 40 years old. I mean, the GOAT debate is really just going to become like just how do you want to look at it, Because, that's going to be the thing with the Brady thing. And I think LeBron is a good, sort of reminder for Mahomes right now at this time as well, too. Because everybody is, of course, the Mahomes-Brady thing, the comparison can't be made at this point because Mahomes wasn't able to accomplish that three-peat. And because Mahomes is still early on in his career compared to what Brady was ultimately able to play out to, Mahomes would have had this thing in his career that Brady never would have been able to accomplish, and you could have at least held that up in the GOAT argument. Again, it's just something that Brady never would have done. Like, how many quarterbacks would have been able to accomplish something that Brady never would have done? But, now, unfortunately, I guess on the other side of that, Mahomes does have something that Brady never did, and that's just absolutely, completely just not show up and play terrible in a Super Bowl and just have one of the worst games of his career in a biggest moment. Because we were, like we said in the game as well, too, comparing it to the Brady losses, like even against the Giants, where Brady's being pressured and sacked, and it seems like the Patriots offense isn't able to do much and isn't able to move the ball. They're still in that game. The game's still close. They still have a fake opportunity at the end of the game with like 20 seconds to try to drive the length of the field and win the game. It still wasn't like this all-time disastrous Brady game, whereas the Mahomes game is like just this legit just bad game. And I guess for me, as a pro Mahomes guy in the moment, you're thinking positively about the Mahomes legacy and all this stuff. And it's like, the positive thing about Mahomes is he's been in the Super Bowl moments and been in these big games so much that this game is not going to necessarily take away from his legacy in a way. Like, that's my, in the moment, it's like he's had so much positive that the only other player that basically has outmatched him at this point from a Super Bowl performance is Tom Brady. And you've got, guys like Bradshaw with 4. Who else would even have 4? Oh, yeah, Bradshaw, Montana. So you go to have the argument for Montana, and then Brady at this point. Mahomes is like sitting arguably as the 3rd best quarterback of all time after 8 seasons in the NFL. So that's, I guess to me, that's why that Super Bowl. It's not that it doesn't mean anything, but it's not like, because it's the Super Bowl. It's obviously it means something, but it's not why it's this big negative toward him, where he's having that performance on the opposite side, which is another reason why it's so shocking. Like, I guess we could go back and look at some of the Elway performances, chat. Do we put John Elway on blast real quick? Let's try to put John Elway on blast. But it's a credit to John Elway that he was able to make the Super Bowl 5 times. But, those early Super Bowls, those first 3, he lost. And I don't know if his team was... Now, ultimately we looked at the game and go, yeah, the Chiefs were outmatched as well as, they played poorly. The Eagles roster is a great roster. But I don't know if, it was like Broncos level to some of these other teams early on. So versus the Giants, 304 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Yeah, versus Washington in that 42-10 loss, he was 257 for 1 pick and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's right up there. 36 quarterback rating. A 19.4 quarterback rating in the Super Bowl against the Niners when they lost. Elway, look at that. Elway's got 2 of the worst as well. Elway's got these big splotches on his resume. And again, if we want to bring... And I guess even that Green Bay Super Bowl in 98 where they won, he wasn't brilliant in that game. He's 123 passing yards, 0 touchdown, and a pick. 51.9 passer rating. The later teams, of course, were probably more carried by Terrell Davis than Elway. But, Elway was able to have these... big performance sort of boo-boos on his resume and then overturn them later in his career. And Mahomes doesn't even have to worry about necessarily overturning this one to catch all of these guys. Like, the only guy he is chasing at this point is Brady. So, again, like, the fact that we're at this point 8 years in his career, to me, is like the big win, even if he's not, ultimately getting the three-peat and entering the ultimate conversation of, can we now start arguing of him versus Tom Brady in a real way and like be able to make real points, valid points. But, and it's just like which other quarterback just threw 8 seasons? If you just stripped everybody down to 8, a little strip poker NFL career style, and just now everybody's down to 8 seasons, and Mahomes at that point would be the best quarterback of all time. But, I guess we'd have to, we'd still do our due diligence and look, but nobody else would have won 3 Super Bowls with the MVPs and the stats and the dominance. It just, I don't think anybody else would have lined it up. Otto Graham, chat, maybe Sammy Baugh. I feel like we'd really have to go back into some of this Y.A. Tittle, type names to really find a true comparison for those first 8 seasons. Because, you're not going to compare just Brady from a talent standpoint, the full body of work in his 8 seasons, to Mahomes' full talent, emergence in his first 8 seasons as well. And then Manning didn't quite have the playoff success through the first 8 seasons to match Mahomes. And then Montana would kind of be... How long was Montana's career? I'm guessing he might have won that 4th Super Bowl in maybe like year 9 or 10. So 17 years, 13 with San Francisco. And he won that last one in 89. So 12 years in, chat. His 12th season in the league, he won his 3rd and his 4th Super Bowls. So even if you go Montana 4 years versus Brady or versus Mahomes 4 years, Mahomes would still have 3 Super Bowls on Montana's 2. And I think Ben Roethlisberger only has 2, right? He didn't win 3 Super Bowls. He made 3, but lost to the Packers. Yeah, Roethlisberger would have 2. If we start going early career, you know, we can maybe throw Big Ben into the mix a little bit. Terry, do we just bring up Terry Bradshaw? You got to, chat. Legendary. The Blonde Bomber? Whoa! That feels like a retroactive nickname that we've given him. Were we calling him the Blonde Bomber in the moment? Maybe we were, but just because Andy Dalton, Red Rifle? I don't know. Plus, wasn't Daryl LaMonica like the Mad Bomber or something like that? So I feel like, you know, you have one guy with a similar nickname already. So you got Bradshaw at 14 years. I mean, his first 8 years in the league, he's only making 1 Pro Bowl. Then in his 30s, you see him kind of play the peak version of his football. Obviously, the team success here is still in the early 70s. 74 and 75, though, you still don't start seeing him win 2 Super Bowls. So I guess even still, Terry versus Mahomes. Like Mahomes would have 3 versus Bradshaw's 2. So I guess Brady and Mahomes would be the only ones to get the 3 in the first 8 years. The first 3 that quickly. Obviously, it's why they're in the mix to be the 2 greatest of all time. But I guess to me, that was the biggest takeaway in the moment. But the narrative, I guess, kind of like the Davis narrative. And that we've got Jace Richardson from Michigan State. Oh, is that Jason Richardson's son? Honestly, didn't realize that he was on the team, chat. Shout out. The next generation, it's emerging. You love to see it. I mean, it's sad to see in one way because, you know, you start thinking about yourself and you're like, oh, man. You know, what have I accomplished, chat? And now all of a sudden, the next generation is starting to pass you by all of a sudden. But it's fun to see the names and the sequels, chat. You love to see them continue on in the legacy, continue to carry on the tradition. But the narrative, you know, where people were talking about. Actually, here, let me just turn down the heater quick, chat. We gotta dive into this, Mahomes. We gotta defend our boy. Gotta turn the heat down. Okay, chat, we'll probably be turning it back up in a little bit because I think we're supposed to get a blizzard in like a couple hours. So, yeah, maybe it's a little inconvenient for the temperature, but also maybe we get work off tomorrow and the restaurant closes down because there's just too much snow outside. And there's also, as of when I left, no reservations made. Is that too much information, chat? I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's too personal. If anything, it means call in and get a spot. But, yeah, the narrative with Davis in this trade, it's like, well, this is the worst trade ever. You know, how could Davis even live up to what Doncic potentially could be? And, you know, now Mahomes, it's like Mahomes has had this, you know, all-time disastrous performance. Obviously, it is that. It's not good, but it's like, can he now be the greatest of all time with him having this game and Brady not having a game like that on his resume? Like, if Mahomes stacks his resume to a similar standard of what Brady was able to accomplish at some point and is able to match his career, and we get to the point where we have to like start nitpicking these little things, is that going to be a thing that we actually have to bring up in the conversation? Is whether or not, you know, Brady had just had a disastrous performance in the playoffs and just had, or not in the playoffs, but in the Super Bowl, and just had this super costly game and all these turnovers and all this stuff. But, you know, again, you look at Elway, and obviously Elway wasn't able to ultimately build up the resume the same way a guy like Brady was, or, you know, the way even Mahomes, like we're saying, has built it up now. But his name compared to similar guys, Elway still gets the nod for what he was able to accomplish and for what you know, how we watched him play the game as well too. For how Elway played the game, it definitely gives him credit for that. And LeBron, like we were mentioning earlier, is another guy who has the 2011 finals on his resume, and it's definitely a thing that the Jordan people bring up. And Jordan never had that game in the finals. You never could have put JJ Barea on Michael Jordan and expected it to work out, chat, which is probably true, but it's like, does that make Michael Jordan the greatest player of all time? Like, it's it's a tricky argument, and it does become one of those things now where it's like, are you debating, what you watched, or are you debating the careers of the players? Because Mahomes is this a hot take, Chad? Is Mahomes like the reverse MJ? Where we got MJ first and then we got LeBron, where LeBron was just able to not minimizing it, but is able to now have just stuck around long enough to where it's like, well, the totality of this at some point just has to overcome what Jordan did. Like, again, he's putting up 26 points. He's putting up 26, 9, and 7 on efficient numbers, highly efficient numbers at 40 years old. There's other guys in other sports. I'm sure there's like guys playing ping pong and guys playing or table tennis or whatever. There's guys playing other sports, like easier sports, that are washed up by the time they're in their late 30s. And there's pool players out there, chat, billiards and bowling guys that are probably in there. The bowling, maybe that goes a little bit later into your years. You could probably extend that career out a little bit. But LeBron's probably outliving other guys in other sports at this point. LeBron's like fully gray in the beard. We were seeing memes when the trade with Doncic and Davis happened, where it was like, well, now, how are they going to build the team around LeBron once Doncic retires? And it's at first it didn't even sit in. It was like, oh yeah, that's actually just a take. That's just a point that somebody's making. That's just a question they're asking. They're like, oh no, wait a second, it's a joke because Doncic is like almost 15 years younger than LeBron James. Doncic is like a full career younger than LeBron James. But it's like, okay, if LeBron is, putting up these numbers into his 40s, at what point do we just have to hand him the crown and just say he's the greatest player of all time? And that's kind of what Brady became. Brady had the hot start to his, like, LeBron didn't have the great team to lead him to 3 championships early in his career, but Brady was able to get that resume going early, and then over time was able to eventually form himself into the greatest quarterback of all time. Whereas Mahomes' peak and the ultimate sort of version that we saw from Mahomes was like, this is just the most special version of the quarterback that we've ever seen. Because yes, he maybe, and that's the other part with the three-peat. It's like, maybe he wins other Super Bowls. If Mahomes wins 3 more Super Bowls, he still has less Super Bowls than Brady. He could have a three-peat in his career and still have less Super Bowls than Brady. He would be at 6 Super Bowls at that point. And maybe Mahomes at 6 and Brady. If Mahomes gets 6, like, with the whatever stats that we put up, but that's kind of the point that I'm making. Like, it's still on the table for Mahomes to be the greatest quarterback of all time just because he had this game. Again, like we're saying, Brady is literally the only guy that's staring him down, and Brady had a decade to go at this point. Brady had 12 years to go at this point. And now, what are the odds that Mahomes is able to play 20 years plus like Brady is? I wouldn't necessarily start betting on it. I wouldn't just start throwing the house at the way we were, heavily betting that Josh Sweat MVP bet, the way it was way too late in the Super Bowl. But I still feel like it was good value, and I still stand by the take that he at least deserved it. But I also don't walk away from that as well, like a couple days later going, yeah, Jalen Hurts, he robbed Josh Sweat of the MVP. I think Josh Sweat did say that, though. There were quotes about that where like Josh Sweat's like, I probably should have won it myself. But regardless, the quarterback, the leader, great guy. Media, he charmed everybody in Radio Row and in the media pressers all week. So there was no way they weren't going to vote him for MVP. But anyways, whatever we were saying about Mahomes and Brady, chat, but it's still on the table for him to get that title. If even if he doesn't get it a three-peat, or even if he doesn't, even if he has this game, and even if Brady doesn't have a game like this, because the other, Mahomes still does have something that Brady never has, and it's just the way that Mahomes plays the game. Like that is a thing and that is just something that, and like MJ, and with MJ, it was maybe necessarily the style as it was just the competitiveness and the consistency and the always delivering and the elevating and the killer mentality. But in Mahomes, obviously, for the except for this game, all those things as well too. But for those of us that have seen him, and especially those early years, the peak of his powers, just the peak versions of Mahomes, it's like this quarterback is the most special quarterback that we've ever seen. And, Brady, since Brady didn't have to rely on athleticism the same way, like, we were able to get a peak version of Brady in a way where the resume was so stacked because Brady was able to, again, the IQ and the talent and just his physical ability, like just literally became a better quarterback over time. He put that much work into himself that, I don't know if that's a pause, Chad, that might be, but he just put that much effort into growing his body is definitely a pause, but he just put that much work and time and effort into the gym that he literally willed himself into just becoming a better quarterback. And by the time Brady got to the point where on the field he was the greatest quarterback of all time, because I guess that's the point that we're trying to make as well too. By the end of Brady's career, the talent, the IQ, there was a like kind of those end Patriots years, that definitely like that Falcons, Seahawks era, where he still had a lot of the physical gifts as well too, and could hit a lot of the downfield shots. It was still, the accuracy and all that stuff, but like I said, the knowledge is all there. He's seen everything. And the resume's there. So he's accomplished everything as well, too. And you're just watching him in awe of the player that he's already been, but the player that he still is. And Mahomes might be at a weird thing where, we'll still see how the Mahomes career is able to continue to develop. But, we might not necessarily get, like, the peak version of Mahomes as the resume fills out. Like, as the early seasons were what we were seeing him create and extend plays and just the downfield element that offense have had with Tyreek Hill. So maybe that's something with Worthy as Mahomes enters, his late 20s and early 30s, the speed that Worthy's able to bring back into that offense. Maybe he's able to, let us kind of see a version of Patrick Mahomes in that way. Obviously, maybe he's not quite as fast or whatever as he was back then, but still, like, it's still, we're still at peak Mahomes, and this is the IQ version of Mahomes now that we're seeing as well, too. Like, Steph was kind of like that, where you're still able to see Steph was able to maintain all the skill and the physical ability from his peak, like, 2016 era in that 22 run, but then, just had the time spent to just be a master at the sport. And I think, like, like, the finishing at the rim, pause, and just the elevating and hang time and all that stuff, like, it was still, I think, as good in, that's 2022 as it was in, like, 2016, and probably even better just because he was more athletic. Like, I mean, like we were saying with Brady is literally faster. Like, he's faster later in his career than he was early on, and in better shape and just a hotter person, and just literally just continued to grow and work on himself and all that stuff. But that's, to go back to the comparison even we were making earlier. Like, if Mahomes does get a couple more Super Bowls and he's at 5 and he's at 6, it's not, to mitigate the 1 or 2 Super Bowls more that Brady has. But, and 2 is still a big difference. Like, LeBron is at 4 and MJ's at 6. But, if LeBron got 1 more where he's playing at this level, even at 40 years old, then it's kind of a lock, Like, even the MJ people still might say 6 for 6 and all that stuff. I get it, but it'd be like, there's just no way. LeBron at 5 titles versus MJ at 6. It's like, we saw it. The LeBron impact was the same. Yeah, maybe, and then you just point to the 2011 finals and go, oh, well, he sucked in that one, blah, 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 blah. And that's the difference maker. And he would have had 6 if he didn't. And it's like, I get it. But we saw it. We saw the impact. It's all the same. You take the MJ career as a franchise, you have 6 titles. You take the LeBron career, you don't get them on one franchise, but you do get 5 titles as a fan, I guess, over the course of that career. And it's, the emotional investment of it is all basically the same, and it's all, and from an argument standpoint, you know, how do you really argue one MJ, one more impactful season versus one more, you know, LeBron season versus, you know, it's why you can mix up the rest of the quarterback list, because most of the guys are so kind of closely together in all of these rings and stuff like that. Like, nobody really ever jumps out. And I, you know, to keep forgetting about Montana, but you gotta remember, we didn't also grow up watching Montana, so sometimes it takes a second for the older names to file in. But and also the older names, you know, they're slower now as well too. It takes them a while to get around. But you know, Montana with 4, that's why those guys were just so obviously 1 and 2, and then Manning is kind of in the mix as well too, with his regular season pedigree and then eventually achieving the playoff career. You know, those are kind of the top 3 for Mahomes. You say Mahomes, like, you know, now we're kind of sitting at like a Mount Rushmore sort of top 4. And I mean, that kind of makes sense as well too, even if we're comparing the Mount Rushmore. Like, Montana is kind of the Bill Russell, maybe. I mean, maybe Unitas is more the Bill Russell, but, and, you know, I get there's maybe some off the court stuff comparisons that Bill Russell, his importance to that, I don't know if there's an NFL, you know, I guess it would be Jim Brown, but I don't know if there's a quarterback that I can think of anyways that would match that significance. Not that there wasn't a quarterback, I'm saying, you know, necessarily doing the same things. I'm sure there was, but just unfortunately one that we don't know of at this moment sitting on the couch. But one we will learn about, chat. We will do the due diligence and we will find out. But because there was a lot of running backs and other guys from that time, and, you know, the quarterback position as well too, the stigma of that, I'm sure, obviously it took them a lot longer to get into that position, and just some of these other options on the team. But you've got Manning and Brady as kind of the MJ Bird combo, but I guess we were saying Brady's LeBron, so we're now, you know, contradicting ourselves or whatever. But you know, and just, but like we're saying, if Mahomes is able to match that resume closely, if he's at, I guess 5 is kind of the set number, right? Or no, he has to get to 6 because Brady's at 7. But again, Brady's first 3 Super Bowls are different. It's not like the MJ titles compared to the LeBron titles. It's like MJ won all those titles at the peak of his powers. He's peak MJ. He was carrying the team. He had Pippen. He had the other guys. Oh, Wolf just airballed. A big woof from our guy Wolf. Yikes. Michigan still within single digits though. 15 minutes. Should we check out the NBA chat? Oh, Knicks up by 1. Halfway through the second quarter. Love to see it. Cameron Payne, shout out. We should probably actually pay attention to watching the Pacers as well too. It's the one time that we get to see them every now and then outside of the blackout window. But, and even with the blackout window games, they don't even let you go back and watch the reruns as well too. Like until the 3-day or 4-day period is up or whatever. Ridiculous, chat. Or maybe they do. Maybe I'll check it back out this year. I guess I was just so affected by that last year. It got me a couple times where there was I remember there was a Minnesota game where they were on national TV and it was like, you know, they were really cooking obviously last year, Edwards, and I was like, oh, I get to watch this Minnesota team play. And then I had something going on, couldn't watch it, and I was like, I'll just watch the rerun on League Passes, an ESPN game, and it was like, nope, local broadcast still, because it's, again, technically Minnesota. You have to, in order to watch the rerun, you got to wait the 3-day local broadcast period. So this season I've just been like, screw it. The T-Wolves, the Pacers, the Bulls, they're off it. They're off the, we're not even trying. Screw League Pass, it doesn't even matter. So I guess we'll have to go back and try it out after this one. Towns. Always Towns that we're just not able to watch, I guess, in the blackout restriction games. But I guess he's not on New York, or he's not on the Indiana. He's on New York, not the Pacers. So we've definitely seen a lot of our guy Towns this year. Shout out. But yeah, again, the Brady rings are a little bit different like that, where maybe his individual impact on some of those earlier rings. So, you know, we're not gonna take. I'm not gonna take all 3 of them away, and, you know, I'm not gonna do what Simmons does with the shout out Bill Simmons. I'm not gonna do what he does with the Lakers titles and be like, none of the Minneapolis ones count. Like, I'm not gonna be like, none of the 3 Brady titles with the defenses count for Brady. He wasn't any good. He was carried. Belichick the scheme, all that stuff. Blah 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 blah. Because like that last title and a half, kind of, he was, you know, And his clutchness leading those offenses with those drives, like it all does matter. You have to always give the quarterback credit for the team that wins, that's for sure. But, you know, Mahomes doesn't have to match him 7 for 7 to now be in the conversation. He still has work to do. Winning 2 Super Bowls would be crazy. Like, it does for Mahomes, and because of what Brady was able to accomplish, and because even Manning was able to like hop over to Denver and win a Super Bowl as well too. I think that kind of ability for a great quarterback to move, and you just go, oh well, he could get a Super Bowl later in his career. It's like, well, you know, the league is always getting better. Like you see, just not even the quarterback position, just the rest of the talent. You know, you may be able to crush your draft and get really good guys, but you know, oh, the Eagles now have Jalen Carter. It's like they crush it to the extra nth degree. They've got the generational talent. There's just all these guys now that I guess you just got to draft the Georgia players from that run, obviously, which is crazy. And I don't, has anybody kind of brought that storyline up as well too? I think we were making jokes about the Georgia defensive line in the moment, but the fact that that Georgia unit was able to win both a national title in college and a Super Bowl in the NFL, because it's not a 1-for-1, you know, all the starters, but you got Carter, you got Nolan Smith, and you got Nakobe Dean as like 3 big pieces of the front 7 in that Super Bowl and in that college championship game. And I know Ringo was drafted to the Eagles as well too. I think, you know, they had to go out and get cornerback help this past year, so I don't know if Ringo, we can count him up to the Super Bowl defense, but he was still on the roster at one point. I think they even maybe had a couple other Georgia guys. Maybe there's a Georgia guy or 2 on offense as well. But maybe just for even Jalen Carter in general, like how many guys have done that? I guess do we need to make a note, chat? That might be a little research thing. The old national title. I mean, I'm sure there's a list, because especially for the, I mean, there is obviously a list, but you know, especially for football as well too, the size of college rosters, like there's overlap between national championships in the NFL in college football, or in you know, Super Bowls. I'm for sure of that. But in terms of major players and in terms of guys like actually, you know, you know, MVP-ish level guys for the teams and just major impact players, you know, should I be, I guess, you know, on the other side of that, Hurts would be another guy as well too, right, chat? You know, he kind of won a national title in a different sort of way, but, or did Hurts win 2 or 1 national titles? Because he won the national title technically that, you know, he was the quarterback for the season and then got subbed out in the second half of the game, and Tua swooped in, got all the glory, and technically I guess we say Tua won that national title. But now that Jalen Hurts is the better NFL quarterback, do we go back and say that Jalen Hurts won the national title? I think that's how it will be remembered. No, Alabama fans will always remember. Okay, yeah, so he just won the 1. Did Bama win again in 2019, though? Is that what it was? No, who won in 19, chat? Oh, LSU. How can I forget the historic Joe Burrow LSU team, chat? Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Thaddeus Moss, chat. How could I forget about the Thaddeus Moss LSU team? Iconic. I guess Tua would have been in position to technically win 2 national championships, and kind of Hurts as well too at Oklahoma there. That team was competitive for sure. But yeah, we'll have to go through and like actually look at the list of guys, especially like 90s and stuff. There's got to be good crossover. But Carter is on that list now of the double impact type player. Super Bowl and college championship. But, you know, building a Super Bowl team, obviously getting back to 2 Super Bowls. Like, I'm not locking it in for Mahomes. I would say I would set the over under at 1.5. You know, obviously, would you say 2 or would you say 1? But I wouldn't just lock in that over again. I would maybe even myself just take the under from a practical standpoint. I'd probably just bet it both ways and somehow lose money and confuse myself, but just make sure to get the bet right somehow. But oh, shout out to Wolf. We were down by 10, but back to 8, chat. Let's go. I don't know if we're going to pull off the upset. It seems like Purdue's kind of been keeping us at arm's length this whole game. But you know, as a top 20 team, we just kind of keep our spot, keep our morale high going into the tournament and the Big Ten tournament as well too. With that being a chance to, you know, for one, lock in your spot, but just to raise your stock in general, just to get your name out there. It's a good networking opportunity, the old Big Ten tournament. People love to see it. People are tuning in. People like myself that are like, wait, what's been going on in college basketball this year? Let me just throw on these tournament games and get a little pause cram session in before we have to fill out this bracket. But what are we? Wolves right now got what? 9 points, 3 for 7. We're getting killed right now, chat, by Lawyer and Smith and Kaufman. Shout out to First though, and shout out to Cox. Pause. Whoa! Don't clip that, but he's 2 for 6, so his performance is keeping us in the game. Cox, do we need to get Cox a blue chew for his whole 3-point shooting, chat? He's a little impotent tonight, apparently, from the field. It's just what it is. But First as well, 1 for 4. Not, that's crazy, chat. Shout out to Cox is wild. That is nuts. But things you never thought you would say. But, hey, it is what it is, chat. And the fact that it's not even a guy from our own team, it's a guy from... I mean, that's how it worked, too. Some guy from another team just baiting us into saying that. Probably not even his name. They probably put that in the box score just to mess with us, to be honest. But, okay, chat. Now that I'm rattled, I have to get back on track. Mahomes, yeah, Brady. Mahomes is going to be great. Brady's great. Mahomes will never get him. It is what it is, chat. Mahomes is never going to win another Super Bowl. Let's be honest. The league will pass him by. It's Jaden Daniels' turn. CJ Stroud's on his heels. Arch Manning is about to enter the league. Nico Emiliava. Did we get that right? Emo Emiliava. We got him. We've got who's in the draft this year? Shador. We've got Shador and Cam Ward. Which I'm been a little quiet on the Shador Cam Ward front, chat. Obviously, we'll start getting into draft stuff more as that approaches, maybe even sooner rather than later. But I've been seeing a lot of clips of just some workout stuff. Not that Shador's not working out. He's putting in great workouts, but just there's been some side-by-side videos that I've been watching, and I'm like, you know, I was so locked in on Shador as this #1 guy. I'm really going to have to go back in and watch this game tape and really make sure that what I was saying all year is actually correct, chatter. Were we actually just watching a little too much Colorado? Maybe that's what it is, but I mean, you know, Shador is going to be the #2 quarterback, so we're not going to be too far off regardless. And we're still going to be supportive and very high on the Shador Sanders stock, and we're all in on the Shador Sanders experience. It's not that we're not going to endorse him as a pick. It's just, you know, in the pursuit to have the perfect draft board, will the tape reveal, I guess, our opinion being Cam Ward or Shador Sanders? We'll just have to see, chat. Big tape guys over here, I guess. But also a pause. But, yeah, it's all the point being, like, just because Mahomes had one bad game in the Super Bowl, like, it's a credit to Mahomes that it doesn't mean anything for his legacy. But that's what we're talking about in the greatest quarterback of all time conversations. He is in a spot where he can totally undo this. And he was so impactful. He was impactful in his first 3 Super Bowls just in a way that Brady wasn't. I mean, that's just a fact, chat. So, yes, he had Brady's 4th Super Bowl versus the Giants, you know, where Brady's at the peak of his powers. It's off the historic season, the undefeated, you know, kind of versus the 3-peat. Brady as well, too, just kind of the mix where it was like if Mahomes had those 5,000-yard seasons this year, like going for the 3-peat, like Brady had the historic 50-touchdown season, but also, you know, they're just winning every game because of it as well, too. And, you know, he still struggles in the game, but his 4th Super Bowl, yeah, maybe it's better technically than Mahomes' 4th Super Bowl, but Mahomes' first 3 Super Bowls over Brady's first 3 Super Bowls, you're putting it above that. And I guess this is Mahomes' 5th Super Bowl, so it's Brady's 5th Super Bowl versus Mahomes' 5th Super Bowl, right? Because Brady lost Tampa Super Bowl. So if we're going like a 1-for-1 comparison, you know, Mahomes' 2nd Super Bowl versus Brady's 2nd Super Bowl, I guess technically because Brady won that one, he'd get the win there. But again, just the totality of Mahomes' 8 years, it's, you know, the most impressive start to a quarterback career that we've seen yet, chat. So just because, and again, it's not just one game, but just because the man has one bad game does not mean that he is now not in the conversation for greatest quarterback of all time because, again, any questions that you would have about his performance in this game, he's already answered those questions, chat. We already know what Mahomes is capable of. We know he's clutch. He's had the 24-0 comebacks in the playoffs. And, Brady had the ultimate moment in the Super Bowl as well, too. Like, I guess maybe that'll be the thing more so that favors Brady than it, like, hurts Mahomes, is Brady has this ultimate moment. And maybe that's just the way, yeah, shout out to us, chat. That's just the way we look at it over here on the bright side of the things on the old YouTube algorithm. But, that moment compared to the peak Mahomes moments, it's the number one for sure. But the low that Mahomes had here, it's not going to wipe away what he did. And it doesn't make him not clutch. It doesn't make him not able to extend plays and create magic. It doesn't, he's having trouble in all these areas where he's kind of been the exception to the rule and throwing across the middle of the field. But, he is the exception to the rule. He's been that for 8 seasons. He's been the guy. Is he going to have a turn now? Is this the new Pat Mahomes? I guess in the GOAT conversation, that becomes a different category. Like, I'm not saying Mahomes is going to catch Brady. I'm just saying Mahomes obviously still can. Just because he had one bad game doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean he will. Mahomes, like we're saying, he maybe never gets back to another Super Bowl. Maybe Mahomes wins a couple more MVPs. And maybe he gets to 2 more and wins 1 and he sits at 4 and, 3 league MVPs and passes Brady in a couple of the stats. And it's like, okay, he's right there. He's number 2. He's 4-4 with Montana and was probably a little bit more dynamic on the field than Montana and had all the clutch factor stuff. And, we get it. Like, we probably put him number 2. Like, he's still there for that. So I guess, were we kind of penciling him in over Montana already? Was Montana kind of the forgotten quarterback in this thing? He kind of is, chat. Everybody's like Mahomes, Brady, but do we need to scale it back? Is it Mahomes, Montana first? Is this like people saying that Joey's like trying to diss Kendrick but he needs to fight needs to rap battle Ab Soul first? I don't know if we need him throwing hands or anything like that. We're not promoting violence. We're just saying, a little lyrical sparring never hurt anybody, chat. Well, we know it did hurt somebody, but Montana needs his respect. Probably if we were making our rankings, I guess it's just a heavy hitter topic. But again, it's the debate right now is Mahomes and Brady. So, and like we were saying on Sunday, that's part of the factor with Mahomes. There's not another resume that you're tackling. I mean, should we just look real quick, like his 8 seasons where he's at, even just statistically compared to some of these guys? Because he's not even too far off just from playing as many as, like, you would assume he would just outplay guys like Elway and people like that. Where, a lot of careers back then, they weren't even really getting to like the 15-year mark or so, like we were seeing. Mahomes, is he top 50? Yeah, he's already, 48th at 32K. So, I mean, if we pencil him in for like, revenge season as well too next year, chat. But, let's just say like 3,800 yards. Now we gotta do like crazy math. But, 3,530. I mean, if he could get into the top 30 just based on next season. And then 40, he's 8K away from 40,000 yards. At 10K, 42,000 yards. So, 2.5 seasons, he's in the top 20 of all time in some of these stats. Unless, is how far is Andy Dalton and Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins going to climb up this? Okay, we got Goff still in the league putting up stats as well, too. In front of Mahomes at this point. And some of the all-time numbers. Can we get like a per-game factor? Again, that's not even going to be fair to some of the older guys, Shout out our guy, Johnny U. Oh, and that just brings Andrew Luck right into the GOAT conversation. Andrew Luck, 4th all-time in passing yards per game. 275.2. You love to see it. You hate to see the old CLT abbreviation for Colts. I don't know why you don't just put an O there or an I or just, put Indy. But I guess that's what we'll go with. Mahomes is... Okay, it's a little bit farther down in per game than I thought he might be. Behind Carson Wentz, chat? Did we pass Mahomes? We had to have. He's not behind Carson Wentz. Oh, Mahomes is number 1. I got so distracted looking. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck walked by the street, and I said, hello, chat, and just missed the rest of the list. It is what it is. So, yeah, look at Mahomes is literally number 1 all time in passing yards per game. He's on pace to crush Tom Brady's records. He's going to destroy them. Brady, 22 yards per game. Less than Mahomes. I mean, I guess at this pace, at 288, how many seasons would he need to play, Chad? If we just gave him a solid 90, I guess 83.9. He's definitely past him. By 289. So 308 more games, chat. And is, do we give him the full 17-game season? Let's give him 15 and a half games. Just, career-wise and, I don't know, just to be safe. Oh, man, chat. The Brady stats, he needs 19 more years. We definitely did the math wrong. There's no way that's correct. But it could also be true. It could also be true. We also probably, it's also not the full total yards, right, chat? See, that's where, are we bad at math, or sometimes it's like, how do you do the math, Pause. Got to figure it out. But it would be the difference, chat, compared, instead of the, this is great. Live guy who did not do that much college. Trying to figure out how to do some math live on the pod. Let's see, chat. Oh, we lost the number. Okay, now we don't even know how to use a calculator. It's just what it is. IT, you're supposed to be helping us look up the numbers and helping us figure out the stats. Why aren't you chipping in here? Why don't we see IT yelling out some just random numbers? Where did IT go? Did IT take a timeout early, chat? I think IT might have gone on break early. It's just what it is. We'll have to do it ourselves. Pause. Oh, man. And it's not even this difficult, chat. It's just watching 2 basketball games at the same time. And plus Josh Hart went down too. So, pause. That's not good either. So he's like 57,000 yards away from Brady right now. He would need like 13 more seasons, 14 more seasons to get to Brady. So, he's going to need to hit pretty close to that 20-year mark. How many seasons did Brady end up playing? Was it 20? 22? 22 seasons. Jesus, chat. Jeez Louise. The fourth quarter comebacks, the touchdowns. Is there anything? The roast, chat. There's nothing that's not on his resume. They should put the roast on his Pro Football Reference page. And, got absolutely destroyed by Nikki Glazer. Pause. I think Nikki Glazer was hoping it'd be the other way around. But, hey, yo! Whoa! Yikes, chat. It is what it is. But yeah, like we're saying, Mahomes, top 5, lock it in. He's already there. And Brady is still, not that Brady is attainable, chat, but Mahomes is still great enough that my point is he could definitely still catch Brady if he's able to get a couple of those more rings. Just because, again, that Brady resume, it's just a little bit, those 7 rings, you look at them a little bit differently. So like 5.5 rings. We're just giving some of the other quarterbacks a ring. And do we start doing that for every quarterback and go, oh, what percentage of the quarterback matter to this team? It's like at what point of the day is it just a Super Bowl is a Super Bowl? It's like at what point of the day is Jalen Hurts has been in 2 Super Bowls and he's won 1 and he's Super Bowl MVP? Like, yeah, the defense was awesome. And again, maybe Josh Sweat should have gotten a little bit of recognition for his performance. But regardless, the quarterback on the team, at the end of the day, it's like he's the guy that did it. And there's no, real slouches that ever won Super Bowl as well either. I mean, what are you guys going to start saying? Trent Dilfer? Give Trent Dilfer some respect, man. Trent Dilfer, you love to see it. Not everybody's going to be in the Hall of Fame that wins the Super Bowl. Let Trent Dilfer have a ring, Somebody had to quarterback the 2000 Ravens. Just because they didn't need one doesn't mean it didn't have to be Trent Dilfer. It's just what it is. Who else? Brad Johnson on the Bucks. I guess, maybe the early 2000s, but it also goes to the state of the league. I mean, if you look at the league at that time and you go, okay, Trent Dilfer, I mean, who else was even in the league at that point? Like, Kerry Collins was, like, making Pro Bowls. Multiple Pro Bowls. And, again, early Brady. I mean, maybe we even have... That's why... Again, it's hard to even go back and nitpick some of that Brady resume because you go back and look, okay, Brady maybe is not the fully formed version of Brady, but is he still one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Yeah, probably. It's not the most stacked time for quarterbacks. Again, you got Manning. Oh, I mean, look at this, chat. The quarterback passing yard leaders behind Peyton Manning this season. Jeff Garcia, Elvis Garbeck, shout out Dante Culpepper, Brett Favre, of course, legendary, Testaverde, solid. Steve Berlin, Mark Brunell, Kerry Collins, Rich Gannon, Kurt Warner, Drew Bledsoe, Jake Plummer, Steve McNair, Sean King, Brian Greasy. I mean, come on, chat. Shout out to the OG quarterbacks of the early 2000s. You love to see it. These guys running around out there with these shoulder pads that are just way too big. Plus, they're running, but they're not really running because they're all these just, several immobile white guys on this list that were definitely getting chased down very easily. But it was a fun time for sure. Not the highest level of play, obviously. And the NBA is, we're giving the NBA all this credit for the level of play that the players are playing at. The quarterback position has gotten way better, chat. I mean, just think of the guys we have in the league right now. Like we're saying, Mahomes and Hurts in the finals. We had Daniels on one side. We had Allen on the other of the losing teams, both amazing quarterbacks. Lamar. We have young guys like Stroud and Drake May and Anthony Richardson, chat. We'll just mention him and move on. You got Joe Burrow, of course. And even the guys that you go, oh, well, he sucks, like Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak Prescott, we're taking him over anybody in 2000, chat. Dak Prescott is winning a Super Bowl put Dak Prescott in 2000, and he is MVP of the league behind Peyton Manning. It's just what it is. I mean, Gannon was the MVP of the league this year. He was 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 picks. Peyton Manning was the best quarterback. He was 33 touchdowns and 15 picks. 4,400 yards. He was awesome, of course. But, yeah, the Stroud. Did we mention Stroud as well? Like, Bryce Young right now was a guy that you're like, he was another one of those guys. You're like, he's awful, Jan. Of course, we're saying this now. Bryce Young played better at the end of the season, obviously. Shout out Bryce Young. There's very few people out there that I feel like, we're saying that that's what the outsiders were saying about Bryce Young. That's not what we were saying about Bryce Young. But Bryce Young is, Sean King, chat? He's got Sean King wiped down. It's not even close. I'm taking Bryce Young every day. Bryce Young over Kerry Collins. It's a debate, chat. And Kerry Collins was in a Super Bowl. I'd have to scratch my head and think about it. That's a pause, but hey, yo. I'd have to sit down in a meeting and think about it, chat. Charlie Batch, the 20th best quarterback in the league. We didn't even mention Stafford. You got Stafford and Goff and Darnold. Sam Darnold would have... All these guys would have won the MVP of the league, chat. Jay Fielder, shout out. Chris Chandler, Rob Johnson, Trent Green, Ryan Leaf, Cordell Stewart. There's some legends down here, chat. Doug Flutie, Troy Aikman. The bottom of the list is more stacked than the top. Trent Dilfer, 34. Yikes. Scroll up before we start hurting our guy's case. They won the Super Bowl that year, and he was 34th in passing yards. Oh, shout out Trent Dilfer. Wow. Warren Moon, still in the league in 2000. 208 yards, getting a game in there, chat. 44-year-old Warren Moon, one last time. One last hoorah. But, you're taking Bryce Young over... Are you taking Bryce Young over Jake Plummer, chat? Jake Plummer was 3-11 this year. Who is the Pro Bowl quarterbacks? Not that you could look at the Pro Bowl quarterbacks right now, too, and go like... That's a stacked list. I think Drake May made the Pro Bowl this year, but Drake May won like one game as a starter. Maybe two. I literally forget. This is going to be all the positions, but Yeah, Jeff Garcia, Elvis Garback, Brian Greasy. These are the Pro Bowl quarterbacks in 2000. Donovan McNabb, Rich Gannon, Peyton Manning. So the quarterback position has definitely gotten better. I don't remember where we got off on that tangent at chat, but it's upgraded. What were we talking about? Trent Dilfer, Jalen Hurts. Comparing this early Super Bowls to Brady. But even if you're not, we're not taking the Super Bowls away from Brady, I guess. But regardless, you would still say that the version of Mahomes in the early Super Bowls was better than early Brady. That's what it is. So I guess it's just up to Mahomes. Is later Mahomes going to be better than later Brady? He has a hiccup in the road, but Brady had his hiccups. And it took Brady, took Brady a decade or whatever to get back and win a Super Bowl. I think it was literally a decade. I think he won that last Super Bowl in 2004, and then again, they didn't get that Seattle win. Again, they got those two Giants appearances, but they didn't get that Seattle win until, I think, 2014. And then 16 would have been that Atlanta 28-3 historic game, if I'm getting that all lined up correctly. Is Mahomes going to take a decade to win his next Super Bowl? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. And even if the Mahomes career is not as as lengthy as Brady's pause, again, if he's able to just stack it in a certain way, again, the MJ LeBron comp is getting to a point, and especially just after watching these last couple of games where you're just like, he's 40? I know it's only in reality a couple of days, a year difference than last year or whatever, but it's still just that number, that magic number of LeBron James is 40 years old and he's putting up 27 a game. Like, that's where we were at with Brady. Brady is 44, 43 years old and he's out there winning the Super Bowl? Like, he's taking Tampa to the Super Bowl? Like, if LeBron had, if the version of LeBron right now, if LeBron went to a different team where he could win a Super Bowl, if he pulled the Brady, and obviously, he pulled a couple of Brady's way earlier on, Brady waited way later, it'd be a totally different scenario. I'm just saying that this version of LeBron is clearly a guy that could win a title and impact a title team. Is he a guy that could be a second best title team player next to Luka? If Austin Reed, is on this version of LeBron on this team, is that a title recipe? I don't know, chat, but I'm not even saying, drop him onto the Thunder, because it's like, well, yeah, you do that, then what are we talking about? But, make a fair trade. If you made a fair LeBron trade at this point, it would make your team better. Like, he's still, and that sounds like a, oh, wow, hot take. But, again, it's like at 40 years old, we're actually saying that about him. Like, that's wild. That's where we're at with Brady in Tampa, where it's like, this guy's going to go to Tampa. He's in his early 40s. He's still not even in his late 40s. He's in his early 40s, and he's going to be winning the Super Bowl, and he's still going to be the best playoff quarterback in the league. And he was even throwing for 5,000 yards there at the end. It's like his last season when maybe it wasn't still like, it was like, oh, this is kind of a lesser Brady, but still the stats were there. Like, even older Brady was still better than older Rodgers, chat. Shout out Rodgers. Hopefully he gets it all worked out in New York. You want to make fun of the guy, but at the end of the day, you see the clock is obviously winding down in his football career, and that career, it's like, once you retire from football, there is a going back if you're Brady, but there's no going back for so long. You can only play football for so long. So as much as even you would look at the league and go, I wouldn't even want Rodgers on my team, I still would hope that Rodgers would find a spot and would be able to, play the sport that he loves for as long as possible. But the Jets, I think there was a report today that said the Jets, if he wants to play on the team again, he can't go on Pat McAfee's show. No more talking for Aaron Rodgers, chat, which is wild. I guess there's not really a comparison because Rodgers is like the only guy that does that. There's not really a guy that. But then again, it's just kind of because of what the Rodgers appearances became. Because, to compare it directly to Tom Brady for, I don't even know for how many years. Brady for forever was going on that radio station in New England. Is that Jim Gray? Shout out. He's legendary, and obviously we should know his name, but just because we're in the Midwest here, chat, not out on the East Coast, so just the names maybe aren't as familiar, but I believe that guy's name was Jim Gray. Brady was just on that show like every Monday, I think, or every week at some point after the games doing an interview. But Brady was just so boring. Michigan ties it up with a 3, Chad in the corner. Burnett, shut out. 5:50 left. Tying it up. Burnett, shout out. I'm acting like I know who these guys are, but just reading the back of the jerseys. Shout out our boys, though. Love to see it. Shout out our guys. Shout out the young men in the maize and blue. Oh, Purdue, right? Oh, no, it went out. We're getting glitches on the Peacock right now, chat, but pause. But I think it rimmed out. The layup, it's first. He's been struggling all game. And he can't even get the easy one to go. Oh, the replay, wide open for 3 in the corner. Wow. You hate to see it if you're a Boilermaker. But I forget we were out there, chat, with Brady and Mahomes. But or MJ or LeBron or whoever we were just whichever legend we were just really about quarterbacks. I forget. Jeez. I feel like I've just like woke up out of a haze where it's like, wait, what were we just talking about? What was that Mahomes haze you just went into defending your guy? It is what it is, though. All these people are out here. And, you know, you got to be as... Some people, you got to be as dramatic as possible. I get it. Like, you know, you're able to consume some of the stuff with, like, a grain of salt where you go, I can see the take and I can see where you probably are getting the grain of truth in that take, but do you actually fully believe it? Probably not. Like, was Stephen A. the one saying it, chat? Like, does Stephen A. actually believe that? And again, I don't even know what the full conversation was. These are mostly just headlines I was seeing as well too. But you know, if somebody says that because of this game, Brady can't be the best quarterback, like, do they actually believe it? Like, I don't know. But I do again see the grain of truth in it. Like, yeah, Brady didn't have that performance. It's a big deal. Like, if you're just spinning the roulette, if you have this guy as your quarterback and you have to spin the roulette wheel and just get a performance, and it's like, well, yeah, Mahomes has all these great performances. Odds are you're going to get a great performance, Pat Mahomes, but there is that one square on there where there is that bad performance. Like, that is obviously a thing, and Brady doesn't necessarily have that. But then again, Brady, even if Brady doesn't have the loss, you go the other, or the loss at dramatic, you go the other way with it too, where again, the recipe is still the same. Like, was it as disastrous for Brady? No, but was it the same thing of this great pass rush where you're able to get there with 4 people and able to drop back in coverage and get the quarterback off his game and able to get the win with that strategy? Like, yeah, it's still the same recipe. So I guess stylistically, you know what you have to do. You have to draft 4 great defensive linemen and build a team that way. But the recipe is kind of the same either way. It's just like, I guess for Mahomes, it results in a worse version of the performance. And then again, you know, it's like Brady, you have the world of possibility if they get the comeback, you know, in there. So I get it. But again, he can water this down. You could water this down and you wouldn't even pause. You won't even be able to taste it. You won't even know it's there, chat. The burn of the... And the problem is, you know, the burn of like alcohol in a drink would result in, ultimately a good time. But the burn of a Mahomes Super Bowl performance, probably not. But the burn of the Mahomes Super Bowl performance could definitely be watered down. It can definitely be forgotten about. And it can definitely not affect him when we're talking about the greatest quarterback of all time. Because, again, he's a special... And I guess, is one of one. Can we even say one of one now? Which is the way that the quarterback position is evolving and how special some of these guys are. Like, is Lamar... is Lamar a more mobile version of it and maybe even a better down the field thrower? And like we're saying with seeing some of the stuff with Jane Daniels and Josh Allen's a little bit more physical version of it. So, yeah, is it like a one of one? But just... He's the best version of that style of quarterback, and the dual threat quarterback is just kind of a more dangerous quarterback than the pocket pass. I know there's no way to prove that, chat, because again, at the end of the day, it's like, well, the best version of the pocket passer is Brady, the best version of the dual threat quarterback is Mahomes, and the best version of the pocket passer is better, but I would still lean the pocket passer guy. And if we were doing the all-time list, I guess, this is something I haven't confronted myself with yet, chat. because I've been making the case that Mahomes can be the greatest quarterback of all time. But I guess if we're just winding it back to in the moment, and just as of right now, we're not making the case that he is. But if we're doing that all-time fantasy draft that we like to always talk about, and we got the guys lined up for a little flag football game, run a little pickup game on the yard. I'm just a yard, not the yard, but if we're gonna run a pickup game, we're probably taking Mahomes over Brady at this point. Pickup game though, in the yard, no offensive lineman. Maybe Mahomes is even more dangerous, but we maybe are still. I mean, you still got to just take Brady as your number one quarterback. You'd get killed for that, It wouldn't be the same level as Barkley taking Allen Iverson in that all-time fantasy draft where he could have drafted Jordan and instead took Allen Iverson, which, again, shout out to Allen Iverson. Not a bad pick, just funny that it happened. But it wouldn't quite be that, but you would still have to take Mahomes or Brady over Mahomes. But then, going down the list, whoever my number 2 pocket passer would be, versus my number 2 dual threat, I'd probably take in the dual threat guy. I'm leaning that style of quarterback over the other type just because of how dynamic that can be in the game plan. But, regardless, at the end of the day, he's still going to have to get the resume up a little bit. Pause. It just is what it is, Chad. So, let's see here. Let's actually take a quick timeout, and then we've got, I guess, a little second half to this Knicks-Pacers game. And, of course, still more Super Bowl thoughts to try to hash out as well, too. As, the game was one thing, the halftime show was another thing, chat. And I guess there's a couple other NBA games we got going on. Do we peek in on college basketball? It's a busy night, chat. I thought it was a slow night, but what do you know? It's a busy night in the sports world. It always is. So we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, chat, we're back. Michigan somehow has a 1-point lead now, and I got distracted. I almost forgot we were live, and I was just a fan watching the game. But now we're a fan watching the game live. So back to business as usual. And we will be sidetracked here quickly, chat. 3 minutes left. Can Michigan pull off the upset? Is this a historic-forming game if we actually get this one done? I don't know, Chad. A number 7 versus no. I think if you're ranked, you don't get to storm the court of the other opponent, unless maybe they're a number one team. There's been a couple of times where Michigan's gotten beat by a ranked opponent, we get the court stormed, or it's like a field storming, and it's like, hey, it's like you guys are a top 25 team. Like, don't you carry yourself with some pride going into the game? Not that, celebrating a victory is not carrying yourself with pride. If Michigan storms the court here, by all means, we'd, if we were there, we'd be joining in. But I'm just saying, like, we literally have the same record. We're 18-5. They're 19-5. They're 11-2 in Big Ten play. We're 10-2. They're, difference is probably the pedigree to start the season and just that fact that they've had that extra win so far. But this would be a tie-breaking performance. And Michigan State plays later against, I think, an unranked opponent. I forget exactly who. I think Indiana after this. So does Indiana get the upset and help out Michigan here by solidifying them as potentially top of the Big Ten? Because this would give us a better Big Ten win percentage. And Michigan State, if they lose, they would have 3 losses as well, too, in Big Ten play. So we'd be the sole leaders. So we'd have to look up the schedule and see when Michigan plays Michigan State next. But what a perfect time to start watching college basketball, chat, right when Michigan starts emerging as the top team in the Big Ten. And it's like, wait a second, Michigan's going to swoop in and potentially just steal this Big Ten championship, or, at least be really competitive and then be in a great spot for the Big Ten tournament. Perfect timing, chat. You love to see it. Oh, and first continues the struggling day, chat. He just fouled out. He's done. Purdue, man down. I don't know if is depth Purdue's strong point. It usually isn't. And if they haven't gone away from first with the shooting struggles, do they have a better option, chat? I don't know. They got a couple other guys or they got one other guy of 4 fouls as well too. So this could potentially get out of control here in the last 2 minutes if they're not careful. Purdue. Michigan at the line. A chance to make it a 3-point game, chat. Now we're potentially adding to the lead. First one down. Do we get free nuggets if he makes them both? Why don't we reward the good instead of... I guess it'd be good for the home team, obviously, if he misses both. But why don't we let the home team win some nuggets for the crowd? Double makes in the 4th quarter. That just shows you how good the NBA players are, chat. That they have to put odds on them missing 2 in a row for you to win something. They go, likely it's not going to happen that a guy misses 2 free throws in a row in an important stretch of the game. But then again, also it just incentivizes you to... They're probably just incentivizing engagement in the game in order to help them win. By winning, creates more success. Success brings them back. They cheer, they win, they get success, they return. It's a mad cycle, and they're just hypnotizing us into, spending all of our own money there, chat. It's just what it is. But, I'd do it willingly. Take it all, chat. It's why the CBA and the TV contract is like $70 billion. It's like that fine that Russia gave Google. That's like the TV contract that the NBA got from all these companies. Where Russia gave Google like a $14 million trillion quadrillion dollar fine that's worth more than all the money on the earth. Which you love to see it. I thought the NFL was only handing down fines that extensive, chat. Got him! But apparently we're seeing it overseas as well. Apparently Google's stepping out of line, chat. Russia keeping them in check. You love to see it. Who sees it? So what happens if Russia gets the money then? What do they do with all that money? Do we move to Russia once they pay that fine? Are they going to divvied up to citizens. Do we have to go get? Oh, we will probably start saying we're gonna get Russian citizenship. Next thing you know, Trump's like, you want to go be a Russian citizen? Go be a Russian citizen. I'll make you a Russian citizen. It's like, hey, now we're just trying to get some of this 40,000 quadrillion million dollars that is going to be going out somewhere sometime soon. Or Google's just not going to pay it. Are they going to contest it in courts? They're like, actually, this number does not exist. We've scientifically proven that Russia's given us a fake number, therefore the fine is invalid. Google actually does not abide by this set of numbers. We abide by another set of numbers. Is Google going to become a flat earth company at some point now and just start using different math and like, oh yeah, we're just all crypto and we don't abide by the dollar value and don't know how it works. They're going to have to find some vibranium and like give them a little piece of vibranium or something. You got to be careful handing out that vibranium though. It's going to get sketchy. We will see what happens Friday. I guess maybe we will see what happens Friday. Will we see it opening day, Chad? Who knows? Shout out. You love to see it. Anthony Mackie getting promoted to Captain America. But either way, Chad, however you feel about it, in a vacuum, it's cool, right? Michigan for 3. Oh! That would have made it 2 scores. The rebound back up and in now. Golson, it was Wolf earlier in the game, but Golson late has been a beast. They can't keep him off the glass. They can't keep him from around the rim. Pause. Did he just foul out? That's the guy with 4 fouls that fouled out. Kaufman Wren. The hyphenated last name. Oh, here comes the next 7-footer that Purdue has stashed away. Of course. I kind of forgot that was a thing, chat. But right away. Hasn't even been a year without Zach Edey. The body hasn't even gotten cold. I guess in the past, they haven't even waited for the player to leave. They've just had the guy on the bench ready to go when the guy gets in foul trouble. It's just like he's mentoring and teaching. It's like, come learn from the other 7'5" center that we have. Oh, big miss. It's a 3-point game, so if he only gets 1, you know, either way, it's a 2-score game if he just makes 1. But you'd love to see it go to 5. Love to see it go to like a full 2 shots instead of just straight up 2 scores. But there we go. 71-67. 75 seconds remaining, chat. Okay, a little offense, defense. Plus, you don't want him picking up any cheap fouls on defense either. You need him for these last 75. I don't know what the foul trouble is for him, though. Okay, chat, I don't know who this 7-footer is, but he's getting worked right now. Oh, speaking of ticky-tack fouls. Too aggressive, I guess, from Michigan. Are they in the bonus now? Trying to switch, but wrapping up the pick, man. And wasn't Edey number 34 at Duke? Is this guy just taking the same number? Aren't they going to retire Edey's number? Is this guy even going to be able to wear it? Is he trying to like hack the system where he's like, let me take this number that I know is going to get retired soon, but obviously I'm only going to be here a couple years, so maybe it doesn't get retired while I'm here, and then all of a sudden, weirdly, my number gets retired because Zach Edey's number got retired. It's kind of a smart move. I don't think they double name on the jersey. I guess we'll see. If he's like a freshman or a sophomore, he's still got his career to go, and we'll see what kind of a great player he's able to turn into. Hopefully not for Michigan's sake, unless he transfers to Michigan, then, you know, by all means, get in the gym, buddy. Oh, Michigan with the putback. The offensive rebounding has what's been separating them in the fourth quarter. Maybe the size would have helped kind of by default, but nope. They're not even able to get an accidental benefit. Oh, excuse me, chat. It's Wolf taking his man off the dribble. And Jones cleaning it up on the follow, chat. So it would be nice if we actually had a field goal go down, but if they're not going to box out, we'll take it regardless. 5-point game, 40 seconds left. We're about to enter timeout mania, chat. It's about to get ugly. So I guess as the game slows down, we can mention halftime reactions as well, too. Honestly, of course, more buzz about the halftime than the game itself. And you could have argued that that might have been the case anyways. But with the way that the game ended up playing out, it's like, yeah, that is definitely the way that it was going to be. And I think the number had gotten released that it was the most watched halftime event in Super Bowl history and television in history. You know, it's the most watched halftime ever. But I think it might be the most watched thing ever, chat. I mean, it's getting views right now like it's a Cat Williams interview. I don't know what they were posting about earlier. But I saw that the 133 million viewers that turned in might be the most of all time for anything. So we got pick and roll at the top here for the Boilermakers. They're going to take a desperate three. Oh! A big shot for Purdue. Luckily, they don't have any timeouts, I don't think. He gets the three to go. Cuts to one score. Do they play the foul game here? I mean, I guess you don't want to foul intentionally. How much time was left? Oh, chat, I just scratched a zit. That hurt. Yikes. But we'll power through. Okay, 20 seconds. So they're going to have to foul to get the ball back. Yeah, that's tough. But big three by Smith, though. At least keeps it in range. If we miss here. Wolf, he's been too clutch. There's no way. Oh! He needed every bit of the rim, chat, but he got it to go. Oh, he's making us nervous. This next one better be a swish. That better means he better have this dialed in. I mean, that's the miss that you get before the swish. It just happened to bounce in that time. So let's get this one, chat. Let's get it easy. Pause. Nothing but net. 75-70. 16 seconds left. If we get a stop here, do they even need to foul, chat? Go down 7? What's the point? Just hold it for the last shot at this point. Down 5. Just make the stats look good. Oh, the crossover by Smith. He drops his man. Oh, chat, he got it to go. Wolf dropped on the crossover. Oh my goodness, an ankle breaker, chat, into the three-pointer. Smith, the back-to-back threes to keep the Boilermakers alive. The killer screen by the center as well, too, at midcourt to clear the initial defender off of him. But Wolf just crumples to the floor, chat. I don't know what happened. He got off balance in the worst way possible. It doesn't even look like his feet got tangled up. He didn't have like a toe drag on the court. He just stuck it to the ground and just fell over. Braden Smith makes him... It's Braden Smith, right? Brandon Smith. Smith makes him pay on the other end. Oh, chat. A tense 8.1 about to approach. We are in the bonus. So we will go to the line regardless of what the foul is, which is good. We have the chance to make this I guess a 4-point game if we hit both. But if we don't, even if we get one here, chat, it's a 3-point game. So they would need to make at least both free throws just to make it back to a 2-score game. Wow. And we do have possession, so a tie-up would go to us or a scenario like that. That's good. So they do foul here, chat. Shout out. Somehow they get it intentionally right on the 6.9, but regardless, Michigan going to the line. Wolf, a chance to redeem himself for the absolutely embarrassing crossover that happened a couple seconds ago. That is almost going to cost us this game if he doesn't make these free throws, if he doesn't knock these in. Pause. Deep breaths, chat. The focus is dialing in. Oh, and the first one rims out. The first one rims out. The only thing that he can do is make this another one-possession game. Purdue, at least if he makes it, though, Purdue can only tie. So just at least if he makes it, you know, don't foul. Just don't foul regardless, but don't foul on a three. Oh, it rims out. I can't even look. Purdue doesn't have timeouts, fortunately. They've got to go. Smith again. Another screen at midcourt. He puts it up. He's not able to get into a set shot, Chad. It's kind of a one-footed runner on the wing. And it's not able to go. Thankfully, they forced the ugly shot from Smith. Wow, chat. They missed both. Smith would have won the game. 11 games this year by Michigan decided by 5 points or fewer, including their last 5 wins. So Michigan, a little like San Antonio right now, kind of in some of these close games. I know, again, we did just get the Fox trade and people are hyped up about us because we added that talent, but it would be nice to take down some of these teams a little bit more decisively. And we just played Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington. And I think all of those points were within 10. Washington was the one that was 10 points. And the fact that you're beating Washington by 10 points, pause, is not good. Washington, especially if you've got Fox and Wemby out there now, the Wizards need to be a team that you go out there and you put up a really A-plus performance against and you dominate and you just go, hey, we're a better team. We need to get an easy win versus a team. Let's go out there and take care of business against these guys. Let me get the big screen switched over here real quick, chat. Shout out the old Maize and Blue. And shout out Jace Richardson up next. I guess Michigan State, Indiana is important now for Michigan. Maybe we'll be the sole Big Ten leaders at this point, but we're going to go NBA chat. We got to pivot. It is what it is. Just a second. Okay, chat. Indiana was looking a little desperate earlier, but they've been able to cut it to 5 here as we enter the fourth quarter. At home, too, against the Knicks. So, little divisional round matchup from last year. And Indiana kind of been one of the sneaky hot teams as of late. I don't know if we need to go back and pull up the record from as of recent, but I mean, they've been extremely cooking, and they're getting Neesmith back as well too. So they got Matherin, back in a real way this year, and Neesmith was hurt for a big chunk of this season as of late. But he's been back. You get that defensive presence on the team. I know the team itself is not a defensive team, but at least he provides a force there. And look at the score of this Detroit-Chicago game, chat. Let's just tune in here real quick. Detroit is up by 48 in Chicago. The Bulls, they, I guess, went in full tank mode after trading Zach LaVine, chat. The Buzelis minutes are not translating into win. Vucevic, in protest of not being traded and just stranded in Chicago after the trade deadline, he's 2 for 12. Kobe White, 1 for 8. Josh Giddey, 2 for 7. Oh, chat. I mean, this is 23% the field compared to 60. I can't even speak. 4% from the field from 3 compared to 45% for the Pistons. I mean, this is about as lopsided a shooting performance as I've seen, chat. This is nuts. Cade Cunningham, 4. Testing 1 2 3. Are we back in? Hello? Testing 1 2 3. Okay, I think we're reconnected. We're good. Yeah, you gotta love it, chat. Gotta love our guy Duran. But anyways, to this Knicks-Pacers game. And I guess actually we were thinking about a lot of stuff after halftime, chat. And we were able, of course, to be able to go back and rewatch it in a real way as well, too. Watching it here with, some of the production stuff going on. You're not able to get a full sense. Yeah, big production setup here on the Remington Pod, chat. But, you're just not able to get a full sense of some of the stuff that was going on. For one, as well, to I guess just our own, not even production, just us, yelling out certified PD, on the, just on one of the lines. Like us just blurting out some of these lyrics, like, we're not exactly hearing what is transpiring over the actual halftime show. And, Drake's not going to take a lot away from this. That was great. I'm probably not even going to watch this. Probably would be best for him to just not watch this for a couple years, to be honest. But at least the league did him a solid. I know they like the crowd volume on that. Obviously, he didn't say anything, Kendrick. I didn't notice that. Again, like I didn't really hear what he said in the moment. But he did. I play the scream from the Tiramisu snippet over that part where, he has that specific lyric in there. But it did also seem like the NFL muted the crowd volume as well, too. Like, you couldn't really hear any. Like, they weren't going to let anything really, like, be on TV. And it's, that's like, are they going to let that word just being blurted out? Of all the list of censored words, but, that's probably a real new one now that is almost not, like, it's almost, it's borderline, like, swear-level word, kind of like, when it can be used in some of these TV settings. But they at least, had the solid of that. But then the A minor thing just completely wipes it out. And, just this all-time killer moment, chat. But not even just the killer moment. Just, like, the whole run that has been... Like, when did like that officially drop? When did We Don't Trust You officially drop? There was some singles and stuff. But that album itself, it was April or March, I want to say. I want to say it was early March that we got the old Future Metro Boomin collab album. March 22nd, 2024. So, we're looking at basically 12 months here, 11 months. And I don't know when the first date of Kendrick's tour is. Does the GNX tour have a page on here? It doesn't, chat. When's the first date of GNX tour? Does it start up in March as well? 19 dates, chat. The Grand National Tour. Oh, wait. What if we... I would assume at some point it would be worthy Oh, here we go, chat. So it'll kick off in April. So you're basically going a year, 13 months a year from when he drops the initial challenging verse on Like That to when he basically kicks off the tour of the final, basically the final leg of the thing. And I know the Super Bowl was game over. The Super Bowl is the peak moment. The Super Bowl absolutely is the peak moment. Whatever, however you want to define the timeline. The Super Bowl started the tour. Regardless, just to find a way to put it into that, 1 year span. But just the last calendar cycle that we've had with Kendrick Lamar since that song building up to the Super Bowl, like I cannot think of just a guy in like sports or entertainment that has just had a year this good. And the success of the year, yes, as well too, but how he individually contributed to his success as well. Where, and hip hop is kind of a solo sport. It can be kind of there can be groups and collabs, and it can be its own thing. And there can be team up efforts, and the whole industry seeming at one point it's like, is everybody focused at Drake? But it at its core, it's still like a one-on-one sport. So maybe it's a little more comparable to like tennis versus comparing like a year that Kendrick had versus a year that like a quarterback had. But again, like even comparing it to sports, I was trying to think like what would be the best 12-month span that an athlete had, and would it have compared to something that we've seen here? I mean, we've had some, especially if you throw in like some Olympic years, like for the NBA, if you matched up a good year with like winning the Olympics and then winning the title, I'm trying to think, 04 obviously wasn't great for the Olympics. 08 was the Redeem team. So maybe like Kobe on the Redeem team and then winning the title would be a pretty like big peak stretch there. I don't know exactly, how aligned all that stuff was, but that feels like it's a pretty close to being within, a 12-month span. Same for LeBron in 2012 as well too. And the guys from the Olympics team this year, you've got Jokic, him having just a great season, him winning another MVP, him, good on the internet, great on the international stage. It's not like they won the gold and stuff, so it's not like, did they win bronze? I think they might have won bronze in the consolation game, but it's not like he was the peak version of what the season could have been. Because it's not just a season. Like I guess you could say that this, Kendrick versus Drake thing is like a season or whatever, but again, like there's been cycles, there's been moments, there's been the rap battle portion, there's been lawsuits, there's been announcements, there's been messages planted the entire time. There's the Canadian tuxedo even all the way up to the Grammys. There's all the way up until him looking into the TV and literally, turning Drake's TV off and then game over and calling it. Like, it's a full year. And for sports, a lot of times, that would border in, you kind of have a little bit of like a couple of seasons in there. Like it'd be like a Mahomes playoffs in 1 year and then his awesome regular, like those early Mahomes years where it's like he won the Super Bowl and followed it up with like an awesome regular season. Or, so sort of vice versa, awesome regular season, then, Super Bowl or whatever. LeBron season where he was awesome in the finals and then awesome to start the next year. Like maybe LeBron in Miami after, that year where he's going into winning the title and then the season after that. So I guess they beat San Antonio the second time, unfortunately. But yes, the OKC. So like the January where it would have been them leading into them winning over OKC in the finals. And then the year after that going into the San Antonio finals. Like maybe, because that's the only time LeBron would have won back-to-back finals. So I guess does he need the previous season or the following season to be like a finals winning season for it to count? We can sit here and debate how you want to define these 12-month stretches and years or whatever for athletes and whatever span it is. But, just the span and the run, it's like this level of moves and execution and game planning and just constant not letting up, constant messaging, not deviating from what he is trying to get across and from what the ultimate goal is of just, the one is message, but also just the battle of Drake and staying ahead of that, and just literally every move he has made, it seemed like it's the right move, and everything's been well received, and everything's been, the music has all been great. The album was great. Every song on the diss track was great. The lyrics have aged well. In the Super Bowl performance, in the moment, like we were saying, I thought it was a great performance, but going back and rewatching it, it really is like a special, special performance. Now, the other problem is I was going back and looking at some of the other Super Bowl performances have had. We're kind of in a run, chat. Like, we're kind of in a run from all-time stuff. And, shout out to Usher. Is Usher maybe throwing this off a little bit, chat? Just a little tiny bit? But, if we were just going for Super Bowl performances or Super Bowl halftime performances for the 2020s, this would be the fifth one now. We're, halfway through the decade with this performance here. But we've had some pretty heavy hitters, and I don't know, when did Jay-Z actually take over? Does it say? Was it? So who? Ricky Kirshner? American television producer. This guy was responsible for booking the Super Bowl from 2011 all the way up until 2020. So this was the run from 2011 to 2020. We had... So, I guess, who's White Cherry Entertainment? Okay, so they did it for a while. Don Meisher Productions. And they didn't really start getting names either. I was looking back until like the 90s and stuff. But Black Eyed Peas, okay, for sure. Peak at the time. Madonna, legend, love to see it. Beyonce, awesome. Bruno Mars, I'm trying to remember. I think this... Yeah, Bruno Mars was great, but I'm trying to remember if this performance was like a great performance or not. Katy Perry... Coldplay, Lady Gaga, Justin Timberlake, Maroon 5, Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. That's, of course, an iconic performance as well. But, and, with all due respect, shout out. I mean, these are great performers and legendary people. It's not, this is the Mahomes thing. It's like it doesn't take away from their careers in any ways. I just don't remember exactly, like, I think this run from after the Beyonce 2013 was killer, but because again, she brought up just Destiny's Child and like this whole big, it's insane. But the run from, and I have to go back and rewatch the 2014, but let's just say Bruno Mars, Katy Perry, Coldplay, Lady Gaga, Timberlake, and Maroon 5 is not the most memorable run of Super Bowl halftimes. Not the most memorable half decade that we've ever had. Shout out to our guy Ricky Kirshner, but was not necessarily throwing heat with the Super Bowl halftime. So Jay-Z swoops in, takes over in 2020. We get Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, which I think is the most viewed halftime show on YouTube at this point. I mean, have we contributed half of those views, chat? Probably, but regardless, Jay-Z knew exactly how to get the eyeballs to the Super Bowl halftime show in year one. And it did exactly just that. Oh, no, how could I be so stupid, chat? Okay, the ones that I actually thought were 1 and 2, so I should have maybe paid respect. But, or no, actually, okay, I was looking at my own search history here. The Shakira J-Lo is the number 2 most viewed halftime of all time. The number 1 is, shout out to, the number 1 is not the University of Arizona Symphonic Marching Band and the Grambling State University Marching Band and the Al I. Hurt Anaheim High School. Imagine the Anaheim High School performing at the halftime in 1967. And the Anaheim Steppers drill team and flag girls? This is not even a high school. This is just like some club that just showed up. But the most viewed, of course, is the 2022 one, the Dr. Dre, Snoop, M, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar. And Kendrick, of course, a part of that one as well, too. And you've got Rihanna from 2023 as the number 3 most viewed. And you have Beyonce and Bruno Mars at number 4, which, again, it's kind of labeled as Bruno Mars, the headline, but for the video, for the socials, they were going, no, this is Beyonce and Bruno Mars. We got to make sure to get this as high-powered as possible. And wait, there's two versions of the video. So there's a shorter. Oh, so I guess it's when they. Oh, this is for the Coldplay one. That's right. They brought out Beyonce and Bruno Mars for the Coldplay halftime. So when Beyonce and Bruno Mars show up, that video is the number 4 most viewed video. I guess just on the NFL channel in general. But the next halftime after that is 5. The Coldplay one is the 5th most viewed video, but the 4th most played halftime. Katy Perry is the 5th most played halftime. Lady Gaga is 6. The Weeknd 7, and then Kendrick Lamar already at 8. Shout out to Usher at 9. Maroon 5 at 10 for the most viewed halftimes so far. So this again is kind of a run. Like Jay-Z is on a streak right now, people. I mean, the Chiefs are going through for a three-peat. Jay-Z, well, what? Chat, let us know. We'll have to go back and rewatch the Usher. I forget. And he did bring out Alicia Keys. It's a win, chat. I forgot about that. It was a win. You love to see it. How could we be so spoiled to have SZA and Alicia Keys as surprise? Chat. I mean, this is an all-time run, chat. We've gotten in 4 consecutive Super Bowls Mary J. Blige, Rihanna, Alicia Keys, and SZA. I mean, Jay-Z. Just give the man a Super Bowl ring every year. This guy knows what he's doing. Jay-Z is the man. Jay-Z needs to just make sure to lock this contract down for life and book the halftime every year. And again, Kendrick won. I think personally for me, this is like, it's tough to say a favorite because I was going back and rewatching some of these, chat, and I forgot how good the Dr. Dre, Snoop, and just this whole one in general was. I forgot how crazy this one went. And again, is it a little unfair? Is this like an Avengers level Super Bowl halftime where you have all the guys performing? But even if you just snip out like the intro part where Snoop and Dre are introduced is nuts. The hype for that is crazy. Not that the hype for Kendrick was like all time insane, but I'm just saying that, and that's even a little unfair too because it's Snoop and Dre in LA. So that's even more rare. Like that's an underrated version of that. And that's part of the reason I think going back is to, why they're in that halftime. But, and, of course, as to why Wayne wanted to be in this halftime to be performing in New Orleans in front of his hometown. And I mean, imagine the pop would have Wayne gotten in New Orleans. And not that the Super Bowl is all locals as well, too. We know the Super Bowl is a corporate event for sure. But I'm just saying the pop that, and, Snoop and Dre, are they corporate guys at this point? Maybe that is, a lot of the businessmen at the Super Bowl probably are bumping Snoop and Dre, that's for sure. But regardless, the pop that they got was nuts, and their performance was great as well too. Snoop absolutely crushed it. Snoop was great live. I wasn't expecting him to be like, it wasn't not that he was great live, it was like, oh no, he is still like great now in the midst of everything live. Like he's just great in general live. He's not great for a guy at that point in his career. I haven't seen a ton of, Super Bowl is going to be a lot of the extents of what I'm seeing of these guys live as well too. So we'll have to go out and do the concerts and do our due diligence, and before we start speaking, with full knowledge on the subject. But compared to Fergie, anyways, Snoop does a better job with some of the vocals live. But I do think low key that at least if we're just going for the 2020s, that, and it's not low key, but like just. And, you don't want to say it right after the hype of the Kendrick one. But again, Kendrick was involved in this. So it's not leaving Kendrick out. But this one is, I think, the best one still in the 2020s. And to be honest as well, too, if we were ranking, I think I'd kind of rank the Rihanna one above it as well. The Rihanna thing was another one that I went back and rewatched today, just remembering how crazy that was. Just the fact that, one, she is pregnant the whole time she performs it is nuts. And to give you just that energetic, because I guess there's a version where she's out there performing and it's still a energetic set, but maybe she's not the most energetic version on the set, but there's still a lot of things going on where it's still great. But no, she's like out there crushing it. And then also just in like even if she wasn't pregnant, the stunts and the way the set was set up and the elevating stages, it would have been just like a risky sort of daring set anyways. But it's like, oh wow, she's doing this, at this stage. It's like Rihanna is, I mean, this is as bad as you can get, people. Rihanna is crushing it right now. So it would be it's tough. It's a toss up 1 and 2. And again, they have little cheats where both of these are like performing hits. You know, this again, they bring out all the guys. They're only performing 1 to 2 songs of their hits. So they're like, you know, Eminem's just bring Eminem out to the Super Bowl and do "Lose Yourself." It's, you know, how is that not a win for the crowd? Obviously, you know, pick the 3 biggest Dre songs, and then the "I Ain't Mad at You" instrumental as well too was great. I forgot about that part. That was great. Dr. Dre just on the piano. Can we get more of that somehow? I want a whole set of Dr. Dre just playing the piano. We get some of these weird, like, not weird, obviously, but, you know, off sort of symphonic orchestra hip hop crossovers. We got the Metro Booming one. Not Metro Booming did the Red Bull one. Nas did one. So we need like a Dr. Dre on the piano with an orchestra doing like a live version of the album. And just these songs, I want to hear just Dr. Dre play "I Ain't Mad at You" fully on the piano and put it on Spotify so I can get it in the rotation, because the snippet was killing me. It was great. But again, it's like Kendrick, and not that he's forced to do GNX, and not that the set is not great that he is doing GNX, but it's also that it's not like these guys are doing the Super Bowl halftime this year, you know, promoting the Missionary album, and it's like, oh, well, now all of a sudden Snoop's doing the set for Missionary. It's like, you know, at this set they're doing the hits. Like Rihanna, was she promoting her brand at this point? She wasn't promoting a new album in 2023. She promoting her kid. I forget exactly why she had signed her for that one, but I think it was a Fenty. I think it was a brand ordeal that she was using to help promote that. But you know, she's also performing sort of her entire catalog, and you know, more expected to, again, just because of where she was at in her career in 2023. Like Kendrick is actively about to go on tour, dropping new material, and again, the material is still strong enough that it's still a great halftime show. It's still absolutely awesome. But again, it's not. I'm not mentioning these two to like go back and be like, oh, let's settle down on the Kendrick halftime show. I'm mentioning it to be like, man, I forgot that we're just on this actually like incredible run of Super Bowl halftime shows. And again, the weekend before all this, like the weekend in the moment was, people were again raving about this, being like, this is the greatest halftime show of all time. And then it just got, you know, toppled 3 of the next 4 years by even more all-time halftime shows. But I mean, this has just been an insane run, just absolutely crazy. And I know it is game over, but it's kind of tough, chat. And it's not just the Kendrick side of things as well too. I think it seems like Drake maybe is, and you know, even if the lawsuit is not moving forward, like he's at least moving forward with his career in a way. Like he's got the album dropped, he's on a little bit more focused on tour. He's still calling back to it. He's still, you know, it's still present with him, obviously, but at least it seems like it's not as, you know, he's settled down a little bit and he's getting back on with things. And again, Kendrick as well too has like claimed that on his side, he's literally nothing left to prove. He's performed at the Super Bowl and everybody in the world has shouted out A minor, and it's the most watched television event of all time. Like Kendrick has won. He's no other thing that there's literally nothing else that Kendrick can do to win. He's done every other avenue and every possible thing and every possible achievement that he can have. It's just because it would be a guy that would win the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year and the Super Bowl MVP, and also, you know, it'd have to be in the last 2 seasons in the NBA as well too, because we have to throw the conference championship MVP in there as well. You know, nobody in the last 75 years of NBA history had done that or whatever. So, you know, I guess it just narrows down to the last 2 seasons for that. But how many guys in NFL history have won the MVP and the Super Bowl in the same year? You know, it's a really short list. Or even within, you know, the 2 seasons, the calendar year of each other. It's, you know, would Rodgers even have done it? Or, you know, maybe he did in the early Green Bay season. Did he win the MVP when they won the Super Bowl? Because that would have been a pretty peak. He would have been crazy stats too, like no interceptions, you know, those peak Rodgers years. Okay, yeah, he won that first Super Bowl in 2011. So they won that, or no, he won the MVP in 11, but they won that Super Bowl in 10, right? 2010, yeah. and all-time playoffs from Rodgers as well. 109 rating in the playoffs through 4 games. So maybe like that calendar stretch from Rodgers. But then the problem was you got the 2011 season on top of that, to finish it around. It's like they get disappointed in the playoffs and out early, exit early. Then the Rodgers sort of career starts, and then the whole narrative of what we get with Rodgers in the playoffs starts literally after this season. But because what 2000, yeah, 1 game and they're out, and Rodgers, kind of mid in that game as well too. So again, are we doing being specific? But it would be like, I know we're overthinking the comparison, but whatever 12-month span comparison, it's like he didn't win the Super Bowl there, and then there's just no. If the Super Bowl, I guess, is not in it, then it's not the same. But there's just no way to fit it, and there's just no comparison, chat. It's like the peak entertainment 12-month span that we've ever seen anybody have in any. I guess we'd have to go through the movies, like some Tom Hanks movie span. But then again, you can only really drop like 1 or 2 movies in a year, so you can, I guess, clean up for a movie in a real way and like win the. If you, again, you could say Kendrick's cleaning up on one song, Not Like Us, as well too, but we're just doing the whole totality of it. Like if you you could make maybe 2 movies in a year and then have a really good press year. If you dropped a couple of movies and then hosted SNL, like what else could you do in the press circuit that would even like. Obviously, like we're saying, win the awards, but just like in the culture, host SNL and then like go on Hot Ones. Is that like the comparison of what Kendrick's been able to accomplish, like dropping an album? Like, I just can't think of something that's been this impressive and just this, like every time you go, he's thinking one step ahead. He is undefeated, perfect. He just found the open man. He hit the open three. He pick and roll just every time. It just was perfect from Kendrick all the way through. And like, Man at the Garden, he said that he deserves it all, and he said he really felt that way. And it's like, it's crazy when a guy can like say that and everybody just kind of looks around and goes, yeah, I guess he does. Like, I can't tell him he's wrong, His music's perfect, like creative show's perfect, branding's perfect. The jacket that he's wearing at Super Bowl halftime was perfect. Bringing out Mustard was perfect. The amount of times I've just rewatched him bringing out Mustard at halftime and Mustard walking around and somebody got to do it. Got my foot up on the gas, and it's so much fun, chat. It's great, and I'm not even, obviously, it's hard not to be pro Kendrick in this whole thing, but we're not like anti Drake in the whole thing either. And it's not like we're a fan of every move that he's made, but we're not reveling in the Kendrick thing as a way to get it. Like, I feel like a lot of people do that as well too. It's like, yes, there's a support of Kendrick, but there's also the support of Kendrick as like, I get to get at Drake while I support Kendrick. And this support of Kendrick, you could tell, is like, oh, screw Drake, we don't like Drake. Like, well, it's like, bro, like, we grew up in the 2010s. Drake, we like Drake. It is what it is. The man's gonna be in the rotation till the end of time, until unless we can't say that. Obviously, the Norm Macdonald joke, you can kill your wife and a waiter, and at any point you could just get out of rotation and lose the Heisman. But where you get what we're saying. Like, in a normal world, the music is always going to be music that we have no problem. We're not like, oh, Drake's music is not real music or whatever. But in this situation, it's like the man has made every move right in the products that he's given the fans and the entertainment, and it's all been amazing, and there's nothing that we can do to complain. And this album's going to be a classic album. The song's going to be a classic song. The halftime performance is a classic halftime performance. The awards show is just a classic moment for the hip hop genre and for his career. And it's crazy, chat. It's crazy. And I feel bad for whoever has to follow it. I feel bad. I don't honestly even know where they go after Kendrick. Like, this is just, and I know I'm talking personally as well too. Like, if we zoomed out and like talk to everybody, because make no mistake, the NFL is everybody. Like, we're watching NBA. Like, I feel like if Kendrick was doing an NBA halftime show, like, maybe it wouldn't have the anti-movement against it. It wouldn't have sort of the parental guidance movement against it that maybe it does for the NFL. But for the most part, like, just for the music industry, because I think the people that are against maybe the Kendrick halftime show, there's no way that you're like a music fan, right? Like I'm sure you like music. Obviously, everybody loves music. Everybody has artists that they listen to, and everybody has their song rotations. I get that, but just in terms of like the industry and the stories and the artists and the people and how just the moves that they're making and how it all works, like there's just no way that you're actually invested in these guys' careers if you're not liking Kendrick Lamar, you know? And even if you're not a hip hop person, like Kendrick is, there's a couple of people that it's like that maybe goes for any genre as well too, where you go, oh, this pop person, they can just cross over anywhere. Like the hip hop people are like, yeah, get over here. We like you. It's okay. This country person, maybe they just cross over anywhere. It's like, who cares? It's like Jelly Roll, man, get over here. Jelly Roll can hang out with the hip hop people. Jelly Roll can go hang out with the pop stars. Jelly Roll can hang out with the country stars. Jelly Roll can hang out everywhere. Like Kendrick's that type of guy. Like you can bring up Kendrick to any music fan and basically any music circle, and there's like a respect for his music and just a recognition of the quality of the music that it is. So that's why it's like the people that you just know, the person that's criticizing the halftime show. It's like, Chads and Karens and Nick Bosa's and just all these guys all over the place that are whining about this stuff. But again, it's like such a cultural high. And all of these halftime shows as well too, I've been big for the culture. Obviously, I'm sure, bringing in Jay-Z as just a strategic move maybe from the NFL is a part of that. But he's absolutely executing it, even if it is and it should be intentional. Like, it's good if it is. I'm just saying that, in terms of the peaks of it, just in the moment, I don't know how you necessarily combat this, and I don't know, like, as well too, like for the culture, like where else could they go, for like the hip hop space. Like obviously Kendrick is kind of the only person now that can do the halftime show, and Drake is obviously still at the level where he could do the halftime show, but there's just no way that Drake's ever going to do the halftime show now, right? Like, the halftime show has openly had Kendrick there and openly been okay, and we just know that, like we were saying earlier, that he's moving on. But, it just seems like that would be a venue now that's kind of tainted by Not Like Us, and not tainted for us, obviously. Legendary, just for him. Probably not going to be a place that he's going to be performing. But again, they've kind of used up a lot of the guys that are even still big pop stars even now. Like we were saying, Bruno Mars, of course, is now shot back up this past year to the #1 guy back on Spotify over the weekend. He's already done the Super Bowl before, so do you bring him back? I mean, it could be, but what also, I would have to go back and look at the year. Like, how much new material does he have since then? And he's got a couple of, obviously some singles and some major new songs, but does it have enough to pull together a really new set? And I'm sure with the material that he had before, he has material that he didn't do that he could just redo and be fine and have a totally new set. But is it time to double dip into Bruno Mars here for the weekend? Like, I don't know. Or for the Super Bowl, I don't know. Obviously, again, the weekend's #2 for just a streaming standpoint. Like, he just did the Super Bowl, so you're not going to have him do it. But then again, just looking at hip-hop, like, who is even on that level? If you're looking at the album sales standpoint, you would have said, like, Eminem and 50 Cent and those guys and Nelly, but you're bringing Nelly out for the Super Bowl, do a whole Nelly set now? I don't know, chat, but, is M going to do a full Super Bowl set now? Maybe. Death of Slim Shady was last year. Is he going to bring out Jid at the Super Bowl for a Fuel verse? That could be kind of nuts. Who knows? But do we get a full Eminem set at the Super Bowl? It seems like maybe the time for that has passed at this point. Shout out to Towns as well, too. 40, 12, and 5 tonight. 40 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. New York is up by 18, so they're going to get this win with about a minute 40 left. And then we're going to Phoenix log off here. Phoenix, Memphis to close. Phoenix versus Memphis to close down the night. Be a fun little matchup to fall asleep to, make no mistake. But assuming everybody's healthy tonight, even if it's not, Memphis, they'll keep it close. But just from a massive, because it's not even like a streaming number standpoint too, because streaming does gear younger. Like Kendrick proved that. Like Kendrick again, from a streaming standpoint, crushed the halftime show. Like even like Sam probably loved the halftime show, and he's obviously a bigger Drake fan than he is a Kendrick fan in terms of the history of the music, but in terms of what they've been playing in the rotation anyways as well too. But what hip hop guys have even emerged as a radio presence on this level at this point? Travis would definitely have to be in the mix, but has Travis had the legs to like do the Super Bowl? Because again, like we talked about that with Kendrick, but that Good Kid, Mad City has been such a presence now for a decade-long run, where Travis, I mean, has projects from a decade ago, like Days Before Rodeo just dropped now, and that's for in the culture and for Travis fans, like that's a really good project and an important piece of work, but it's not a massive hit that's like a Super Bowl type thing. Even the Rodeo album, like Astro, like really Astro World and Utopia would be the only songs or the only albums that would be on that kind of a level. And not to say that those are the only two albums that he could do songs off of. Like if Travis Scott was at the Super Bowl, like would 90210 be in the set? I mean, for sure. Could, Backyard even be in that type of a set? Like that probably is not gonna be in the set. No, people are gonna know that song. That'd be a fun one though. But maybe 90210 or something off Rodeo for sure could definitely be in the mix. But he's on pace. Travis is definitely on pace to have the popularity and the discography and the quality to be able to do it. But I just don't think he's quite there yet. So I guess unless Jay-Z is just, gearing it toward a different, even just gearing it toward maybe a different demographic in general, gearing it younger, gearing it toward the teens and the internet audience and these type of people, like maybe it could open it up to a guy that is not as established in the thing, and not just some old rock star that you're bringing out or some pop star that's been around for a long time. Taylor Swift has never done the Super Bowl, but are you bringing Taylor Swift out? I mean, obviously that'd be a great performance. Like Taylor Swift would, I'm sure, do an amazing job at the Super Bowl, but maybe that is the one that has to be next. I mean, just in terms of star levels, like she's up next to do it for sure. I'm sure she's totally okay with letting Kendrick. Like Taylor Swift loves Kendrick. I'm sure she would have given the Super Bowl to Kendrick if she had the choice. But that would be. I mean, you would put her on the list as like just who would do it next. I guess I don't know if there's any sort of thing with her in the Super Bowl where she just wouldn't want to be on that venue. But if you're gonna go back into sort of the pop star route, it would seem like that would be the obvious one just to get the most attention on it. Like you want to talk about breaking the YouTube views records, that one might get like 500 mil. That would be crazy. That one might get a billion. Honestly, you can't underestimate the Swifties. There's everybody's a Swiftie, and then you just become like I'll just be sitting there in the just sitting on the couch some night scrolling through YouTube, and it's like that Taylor Swift 2026 halftime video will be there, and I'll be like, let me just click on it. And once you click on it, it's got the view. Maybe I watched only 2 minutes of it, but it's like, oh, I gave them the views, so it's worked. The algorithm won. Taylor Swift, the powerhouse. At the end of the day, and that's the credit to her. But I'm just saying that would be from a star standpoint, obviously, a heavy hitter that you could bring out there, and that would be new for the Super Bowl as well too. Because if they did want to double dip for the Super Bowl, I think the most obvious one for next year, or maybe not the most obvious, but like again, if you wanted to just bring somebody back and somebody that could totally do it, and would just be an awesome choice. Like if you wanted to bring Beyonce back for the Super Bowl, it would totally be great. But again, it would be a third time as well too. Wouldn't just be bringing her back as a second time for a solo performance. She was already out there as well, like we were saying in that Coldplay Super Bowl. But I mean, just think about the career that she's had since that Super Bowl in 2013, where it was that early Beyonce stuff, and then again, a lot of that Destiny's Child catalog, which I should have said it like that. Destiny's Child catalog is a catalog that we've been going through recently, and it's amazing. But uh, it's a lot of it just her earlier work. And I mean, she's dropped maybe her most classic critical projects since then. When you got like Lemonade and Renaissance, I mean, and now with Cowboy Carter, I mean, think of those three albums alone. Just that's somebody's career. That's like if somebody had those three albums, they'd be an all-time great artist. And it's like that's just a run that she had.
as part of her career. And she had that post that Super Bowl in 2013, and she could just slaughter it down and do it again. So she had the quote unquote little warm up as well too, doing the Netflix halftime. So we've seen her on the stage. Not that we would doubt her, but it's just you would get lock in that she's gonna crush that live performance, give us a great show. So that would be like if we were gonna, I guess, triple dip, then lock it in Beyonce. Who wouldn't love to see Beyonce again? A Super Bowl halftime. But again, performing some of those songs would be awesome. But I honestly couldn't think of like any other hip hop guys outside of if again Eminem or if he wanted to try to just get ahead of the curve and then maybe get Travis in there because Travis does have an album dropping this year. So if Travis's album, I guess he's got a rumored album for 2025, right? So if Travis drops I assume he would, just another massive commercial project, and that quality is there, like that could be three of those projects now with Astroworld, Utopia, and that project where maybe he could, maybe he could be in the mix for 2026. Again, from a popularity and discography standpoint, our guy Ye would be in the mix, but not anymore. Unfortunately, does not. We probably have to repair quite a few relationships in the next year to get that 2026 Super Bowl. So I don't know. 12 months is enough time. Maybe 2027 would be really work. I don't know what's gonna happen, Chad. But again, he would just be at that level. I guess again, from a hip hop standpoint, I guess we should mention it's like his low weight, but is he going to turn down the Super Bowl if they offer it to him as well? Probably. So if you wanted to give Wayne the Super Bowl, it again be hilarious, but also not hilarious, but also just crazy that you would get the Super Bowl the year after it being in your hometown. But that's just how it works out. Kendrick's year was last year. You know, not everything lines up perfectly, but to get the Super Bowl is a win anyways, regardless of what city it's in. So he would have, and I don't know where he's at as a live performer right now, so Jay Z might have to do a little scouting and pull up a couple concerts and see what's going on. But then, Lil Wayne, where's he at in the streaming rankings right now? He is at, uh, he might even be down a little bit further. Is he behind 50 Cent? Is he behind Lil Baby? Where's Lil Wayne at? This list is too confusing. I'll just have to see where he's at because he's gonna be a little lower, like maybe currently from where his like peak commercial success would be at. Oh, 51.5, Chad. So yeah, he is right in that range where he's 47. So yeah, he's 21 Savage right now is 49th in the world in streaming at 50. Like, is 21 Savage going to do the Super Bowl because he's top 50 in streaming? Like, because he's close to Lil Wayne in streaming, is he close to Lil Wayne doing the Super Bowl? Like, obviously, Lil Wayne is way closer to doing the Super Bowl uh, than 21 Savage. But that range, anyways, for streaming, like, if we're just looking around the guys that are, equal popularity of Lil Wayne now, again, on that streaming number, like, who could have the career? Like, those guys are, again, 21 Savage. You've got Playboy Cardi in the top 40. Is got a whole lot of red and dial-it. Is that what Playboy Cardi was waiting for, chat? I think IT just said, actually, they got some insider information that the reason that Playboy Cardi did not drop the album in 2024 is because he wants to do the Super Bowl. And he knew Kendrick was going to do the Super Bowl, so he wants to do the 2026 Super Bowl, so he's going to drop the album this year in 2025. So they said that that was too long for a tweet. So we just wanted to break that news here that Playboy Cardi wants to do the Super Bowl in 2026, so he's going to drop the album potentially this year in 2025. So I guess if that album hits, then maybe he would get to see a whole lot of right at the Super Bowl, chat. Who knows? But Future as well too in that level. Like Future with all due respect, NBA All Star game, and J Cole has done an all NBA All Star game. So I think that is like a perfect comparison. Again, you need to break out that radio wave a different level. But there was one other hip hop guy that I was thinking about as well too. Oh yeah, Tyler the Creator could be close. he's not going to drop another project before 2026, so maybe he's not up for 2026. But whenever Tyler drops that eighth studio album, if that just continues that line of one, the Tyler quality, but just as Tyler continues to raise his quality, just his popularity and his success continues to rise. So he is in that Lil Wayne, 21 Savage future mix now, 50 plus million streaming on monthly listeners. But a lot of those guys as well too kind of pirate off each other, especially that group Metro, 21 Savage, and Future, where with Metro booming, those guys are, and Metro is 54th right now at 48 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So those guys in the features are kind of being carried up a little bit, whereas Tyler's catalog is kind of self-produced. It's a lot of his own stuff. So his popularity, like he might be number 3 right now in the popularity power rankings. Behind Kendrick, I guess, is still popularity power rankings top 5 as well too. It's Kendrick and Drake and Travis and Tyler right now are like the 4 guys that are like at the front of hip hop. So, and again, with Tyler like kind of currently dropping stuff, I guess we'll get Drake back in the mix here in a couple days with D&D. But Tyler is like one more bump away from getting the Super Bowl. But again, with the way his career's progressed, I feel like he could actually get that bump. I don't know if Future is gonna quite get to Super Bowl level. He could though. It's close. It's close. He would need his next project or whatever he does, or maybe just like one massive smash single. What is Future's most streamed song? If he gets that like Not Like Us level, not that it would be that level. It's like that's an untouchable level song. Is it? It's not low like it. 1 billion. Quick chat. See what we got going on for Future. Because he's got, I think, 4 songs over a billion potentially. But for his most streamed song individually, I forget what that was. One must see. It's not like Wait for You, especially not anymore after Future dissed Drake. Though Future and Drake, I think, are the most likely to make up for this whole thing. I think that's pretty. It's been a pretty common train of thought. Let's see here, chat. Am I on the right website? There's 2 websites that have these numbers. I think this one might be the one for the albums. But this might be for the tracks as well too. Oh no, this does have the track numbers on it. Just not the way I wanted it. I'll have to go through and see. Will this have the singles on it? Here, I think we just need to go to the right site. Check it out that way. See if we can find Future here real quick, chat. Future's most streamed song of all time with over a billion streams is, drumroll please, chat, as soon as this dumb website loads. Okay. What are we doing here? Again, for those that tuned into the Super Bowl pod, they do know that I dropped the speaker on my mouse pad, so it's probably not the website. It's probably the mouse pad not working. But it is what it is. It's gonna stall and it's gonna hurt our ability to research. But regardless, if Future gets one more like song like that, well, not like that, but if he gets a big another radio hit where it's like everybody needs to go listen to this song at Super Bowl halftime, then he's definitely in the mix. But for hip hop guys, I would say Drake off the table, probably not going to do Super Bowl, obviously. And like SZA, if SZA's next album, like she could literally go up with SOS and one more album, and maybe Lana, 30 for 30, bring up Kendrick or not. Like she's close to doing it as well too, and her appearance wasn't so overwhelming that it was like kind of like a co-starring. She can't really, she's got to take like a break because she was too prominent in the first one. It's like no, she still has the space to be able to go back and perform a lot of her hits. And like Kill Bill would be that song where like everybody is singing along to Kill Bill. It would be awesome. But if you want to go international, Bad Bunny, could that be in play? I was thinking maybe, you know, Billie Eilish. Like, does Billie Eilish have the discography, not the quality, but the style to be able to go up there and do a Super Bowl halftime? I would love to see what a Billie Eilish Super Bowl halftime would look like. That'd be pretty sick. There was a couple others that I was thinking of as well too. I said the Beyonce one. Uh, Yeah, Bad Bunny, Billie Eilish, Beyonce, the hip hop guys I mentioned. Oh, this one would be crazy, chat. What about an Adele halftime? Mic drop. Is that how we end it right there, chat? Bam. 2026. Lock it in, Adele. There's only one person that could follow Kendrick. There's only one person that, from a legacy standpoint, could live up to the hype and live up to the expectations and live up to all the bar that Kendrick Lamar has now set at Super Bowl halftime. I know he's got his video, has got a long way to climb before it gets to some of those other, high level videos and some of those other all time Super Bowl halftime performances. But regardless, it is, still well on its way to being iconic. So stay tuned to the YouTube here, chat. Maybe we'll put up a poll on who should, perform at the next Super Bowl halftime. But we will be back this weekend. We've got this Friday. We've got both the Drake album and the Captain America video dropping. So heavy hitters, chat. Some big stuff to go break down there, pause. But we'll be there for it. We got to at least check it out. They're both things worth checking out. Both things at least seeing what's going on for. So I don't know if we'll do a double feature on Friday or if we'll space it out. We'll just see, what we have time to listen and watch and do all that stuff. So Friday will definitely be one or the other or both or, just the next couple episodes or something. So, we've got that to look forward to. We've still got the top 10, or not top 10, but, best players in the NFL, our NFL player rankings that we'll be doing because now the season is over. So this year's just been a hot start, chat. Hot starts of the year, playoffs, NBA, trade deadline, a lot of stuff happening, and we're still kind of at the tail end of all that with still kind of this perfect run of the Super Bowl and a hype album. We get maybe a big movie. We'll do our player rankings. We'll get some March Madness stuff kind of start to work in, and just all kinds of stuff that we got that is going to be on the horizon as well too. So just stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube. Thank you guys for jumping on tonight. We're also on the other platforms as well too: Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, iTunes. If you still have TikTok on your phones, anyways. I guess we're out there, but Instagram mainly and the pod platforms and here on the YouTube, like I said. But yep,